Hey everybody, P-Dub here, and we are going to do a little brief synopsis of some things before we begin our interview, our discussion with Ryan McBeth. I wanted to talk about the Ukraine Independence Fund. So coming up this weekend, March 24th and 25th, we're doing a camp and shoot. On Friday, we're camping on a ranch in Waxahachie, Texas. We're going to be hanging out under the stars with the campfire, some great times together. And then the next morning on the 25th, it's a full day of two-gun tactical shooting. We're going to be going over some awesome drills between rifle and pistol transitions, some movement to contact, a lot of really cool tactical stuff. So I hope you can join. If you're a shooter in the Texas area or you want to fly in, go ahead and come on and join our camp and shoot. You can visit our ifundukraine.org website and see the camp and shoot and then register to join the event. And also, what are we raising the money for? It's a fundraiser for volunteers working in the most hostile regions throughout Ukraine. We want to deliver medical supplies, protective equipment, and logistical support and provide a gap there that we're seeing that even though there's billions of dollars rolling in from around the world from these different governments, there's a gap there where these volunteers are basically living out of their cars and they're not getting money for food and supplies that they need. So we want to make sure their basic needs are met so they can continue delivering humanitarian aid to the people throughout Ukraine. If you look here in the middle, we want to deliver personal protective equipment. And this is important because there's a lot of artillery things taking place, among other things, and even civilians and volunteers are becoming injured or killed. So we have a direct need right now, and I'll be putting it up on the website soon, but right now we need plate carriers. These are the vests that people wear on their body, and they need the plates to go in those carriers, the body armor plates to protect them against shrapnel and rifle ammunition, pistol ammunition, things like that. But we need 2 extra larges, we need 5 larges, and 2 medium sizes. So a total of 9 plate carriers, but various sizes. And we have a direct need right now where there's a group of volunteers working over there that need those plate carriers in and the plates as well. So you can imagine trying to move around and do humanitarian aid and you don't have that protection, or the protection you do have is intensely heavy and it's very hard to move around in while you're lifting things and moving them around and delivering them. So we want to try to get them as good of equipment as we possibly can. And so also I want to give a shout out. So if you're noticing, the lighting's a little different, right, this time around, those of you watching on video. So I want to give a shout out to Kevin over at Cinemental Imagery and Entertainment. He came over. He's a Marine Corps veteran, coincidentally. He came over, was going to adjust our lighting and our cameras and all that stuff. And coincidentally, while he's here talking about doing the job, we both find out we're Marine veterans. And so awesome. Want to give a shout out to Kevin because if you look at earlier episodes, it's kind of washed out, doesn't look very well. And now we've got a much cleaner look, right? So hopefully you guys are going to be enjoying that moving forward. But check it out if you have any camera, YouTube aspirations, you want to do anything for photography. He's got an awesome demo reel where he does drone footage and the city, day and night, and it's really cool outdoor stuff. So check out his stuff, Kevin, Cinemental Imagery and Entertainment. He's on YouTube and Instagram, and we'll put the link there in the description of this video. So anyway, here we go. Thanks for watching the episode. We're about to start with Ryan McBeth. Thanks, guys. The
TV show BoJack Horseman. Can someone please get some liquor into my mouth?
What is this from?
There's a TV show on Netflix called BoJack Horseman, which is a cartoon. It went for about 5 seasons. And BoJack is like a talking horse.
I think you wanted those on your side, right?
Yeah,
you said you wanted to present them?
Yeah, well,
we don't have to.
I wanted to present the wallet, but
okay.
Everything else is yours.
We can separate this out. You brought some. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you don't give a gift with conditions.
Oh, I understand. Oh, I didn't feel like it was conditional. Hey, John, would you mind putting that on the chair? Thanks, dude. We can talk about that, too.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay,
so, can I shake your hand across? Yeah, I guess I can do that. All right, cool. So I'll be able to hand that to you and shake your hand when you do. Because that's how you're supposed to give a coin, right?
Yeah, do the handshake, yeah. Well, you know what? Someone hadn't given me a coin in quite a while. So when you did that, and I was like, what is he doing? Oh, yeah, it took me a delay of like, why does he want to... That's a weird way to hand it to someone. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's been a few years.
First coin I ever got was from I killed a tank. I was in Germany, and I remember NATO was attacking our position, and I was the anti-armor guy, and this enemy Bradley was coming up, or Blue 4 Bradley was coming up the slope, and I took my dragon out and I hit the thing. It got a mobility kill. And like guys started spilling out the ramp comes down. Guys start spilling out the back like Saving Private Ryan. We're just we're shooting these guys. Their miles gear was going off, and finally this E6, oldest active duty E6 thing I've ever seen. The guy looked like a grandpa. He comes running out of the back of that Brad, and there's a plugger. Before it was a GPS unit. The plugger was probably the size of like an old Speak and Spell, like this massive GPS unit. He had this plugger tied off to his thigh. It's banging against his thigh as he's running, And we've shot him last. And I remember like he took off his helmet, threw his helmet on the ground, and said, "Thank God." I don't know what his day was like, but to get he got shot and it got better. Like that told me a lot. Yeah, that told me a lot about what was going on with him. Are we rolling or? Yeah, we're rolling already.
That's how we do it, baby.
I didn't know that. I would have started smoking.
Yeah, welcome, Ryan.
Thank you so much.
I'm so glad you could be here, man. I saw your. I ran across your channel.
Yeah.
And I see you talking about a whole bunch of Ukraine stuff, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! This is the guy, man. I want to check out his stuff." And the thing I was so impressed with is that you did a lot of research on your videos, and that's really cool because there's a lot of dudes out there that are making videos that are just, oh, this sounds cool, I'm going to talk about it, and there's not any really depth of research, any depth of knowledge in the topic, and it was very obvious because of the way that you're presenting the information. Okay, this guy's well-researched, you have the background in it, smart guy, it's cool, man. So thanks, and then I reached out to you, I mentioned our nonprofit that we're trying to do work in Ukraine and stuff. And so, yeah, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
And
thank you for the Angel's Envy.
Of course. Yes, Angel's Envy Rye, man.
And I love that stuff. Oh, that is so good.
Oh, that is like amazing. A warm blanket in your mouth.
And this is pretty good too. Thank you for letting me have a cigar.
Of course, man. Yeah.
I did have a couple of things for you. The first is the Ryan McBeth challenge coin, the butt pillow coin.
Okay.
So thank you so much for inviting me down here.
Thanks, brother.
And I have a Ridge wallet for you.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
So this thing, I used to get sciatica because my wallet was too big, and I got my orange, and plus it comes in orange, which is my favorite color.
Oh, that's cool.
And I love my freaking Ridge wallet. And right now, you go to ridge.com/McBeth. I think until the 24th, you can get 40% off.
All right. We'll make a note. We got to put that on the screen while he's saying that.
Absolutely.
Ridge.com/McBeth.
Ridge.com/McBeth.
I've seen these. So these are really cool, man. This is carbon fiber. Is that what they're made out of?
I think that one's aluminum because, my favorite color was, it was orange. And
got it.
Just ordered another aluminum one.
Yeah, RFID blocking. This is really cool.
I love it, and it fits right in my pocket. It's fantastic. The people are going to think this is a Ridge commercial if we keep talking.
Yeah. Sorry, I know. Well, I wanted to give it its due diligence.
I appreciate that. Thanks. I just love the wallet.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the coin because I've seen this. You had T-shirts with this.
I did.
It's a butt pillow.
T-shirts with my butt. So it's crazy. I started my channel as a programming channel. As
Ryan
channel.
McBeth programming.
Yeah, literally. This is for writing software, and it was like years ago. Like I interviewed this dude, and this guy was like, he knew what he was talking. I could tell he knew what he was talking about, but he couldn't articulate it. He just couldn't get it across. And so I remember thinking, like, I need to start like a YouTube channel where I teach people how to answer programming questions. And so for like a year, I made videos on how to answer programming questions in job interview. Well, one of my videos, I did a video about blockchain, like how blockchain works, how Bitcoin works. I built an entire crypto system, this entire crypto system. And I published it for free on GitHub to show people how this worked. And also to kind of act as a warning of, look, if you do this blockchain thing, or if you do Bitcoin or any kind of cryptocurrency, one of the disadvantages of a cryptocurrency is that literally anyone can make one, including me, in 2 weeks. So you need to be very careful before investing in cryptocurrency. So I made like an entire Seinfeld skit about cryptocurrency. And, that got like 5,000 views.
That's good. That's a great start.
And then I make a video about why Russian soldiers wear butt pillows.
Okay.
2.2 million views.
All this work about crypto, programming, tech, 5,000 views.
2.2 million views.
Gosh.
Butt pillows. But I think that's the niche. Like, that's the niche that I kind of fill here.
Butt pillow coin. Yeah, so if you, John, are you on me? This is the back of your coin, butt pillow coin. So this is to commemorate that people care more about butt pillows than they do about crypto.
Crypto. And the first, anti-tank, anti-quit.
And this is you smoking a cigar? Is that your...
Yeah, that's my... Although people say I look like Peggy from King of the Hill. Whatever.
Nice, man. Well, thank you for the wallet, and thank you for the coin. Absolutely. And the cigars.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I was trying to... Sorry for anyone listening. I was trying to get one open, and the paper kept... plastic kept crinkling.
I love those things, too. My favorite cigar, CAO Brasilia. You would not think that Brazil would make good cigars. And I'll tell you something. In a way, in the United States, we're very lucky. Because of the embargo with Cuba, we can't get Cuban cigars.
Yeah.
And so it's forced American cigar companies like General Cigar to innovate and come up with really good cigars. And now, I don't know if I would smoke a Cuban cigar, even if I was offered one.
You're right. They're not as good as they used to be.
Well, they're putting out whatever.
Guatemala, Brazil, Nicaragua, they're all innovated to improve their tobacco and the quality of their cigars. So it's not quite as the hot item as it used to be.
No, it's not. And Cuba is going to put out whatever crap they can in order to get the hard currency that they need to run their economy. So I don't know, until we have some kind of renormalization of relations with Cuba, I think I don't really foresee Cuban cigars getting good anytime soon.
I went to Cuba in 2016. I did a rock climbing trip there.
Really?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Awesome, dude. Cuban people are amazing. Beautiful country, great rock climbing, and the cigars that we had. We went to an area called Vinales.
Okay.
It's the west side of the island. And they've got these giant mountain mounds called magotes. And it's just basically a mound, but as rainwater, because it's limestone, as rainwater has trickled around the edges, it's broken away the rock. And so instead of it being a mound, it's cut away at it, so it's more of a vertical face and sometimes an overhanging face, which is great for rock climbing because now you have aged limestone that's really awesome to climb. Very, very sharp because it's not a heavily trafficked climbing area overall compared to other places internationally. And so it's really cool. But Vinales is also farm country.
Okay.
So we go on this dude, Raul Reyes, has a big farm out there. And he's growing everything. He's growing vegetables. He's raising goats. He's grows his own sugar cane.
Okay.
Grows mint, and he grows his own tobacco and coffee. So I know enough Spanish.
Yeah.
As a tourist, I have tourist Spanish, so I understand as we leave our little Casa Particulares, which is like the rental rooms. You can rent an Airbnb for Cuba.
Yeah.
So you leave your Casa Particulares and you walk through the town of Vinales, and you can see the Mogotes in the distance, the mountains, and you're walking, and the guidebook says, yeah, walk through this dude's field. And you're like, okay. So you're walking through this dude's farmland, and this old dude walks up to you, hello, and he's saying it in Spanish, hello, I'm Raul, welcome to my farm, you're welcome. He already knows climbers are coming to his he owns the Mogotes, it's his farmland. So he says, you're welcome to come through my farmland and climb, have a good time, but on your way back, buy something. And he points over, he's got a stand, and he's selling cocktails and coffee and cigars and food. And one of the most memorable meals of my life was we stopped and we got the special. I forget the name of it, but it's basically like roasted baby goat. And so we like, yeah, we'll take that, and we have a couple cocktails. We have some of his homegrown cigars that are incredible because it's grown right there. There's no packaging. There's a lady rolling them in the corner, like it's that kind of deal. And so we wait about a half hour for this meal to get made, and they say, hey, go sit at this table right here. And we're sitting, and we're getting a smorgasbord of just farm to table food. Like, it's not even farm to table, like the table is on the farm. Like, we're there, and there's all vegetables, all freshly grown right there. We're eating baby goat, and we're watching goats run around, and we're like, we're eating your cousin, bro. Like, we're eating, this is so fresh, man. I mean, it was one of the most incredible meals I've ever had because it was so fresh, so good. And we got cigars and coffee, and it was just a really cool experience. But I love the Cuban people. I love the culture. Yeah. They're amazing people. And, I didn't mean to go on a rant about that.
No, I think that's fascinating.
So you can get an amazing cigar in Cuba, but you got to go to Raul Reyes's farm.
So I used to get my shirts made in a place in Boca Raton. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm so stuffy here. I used to get my shirts made by this guy. His name was Raul. And so I'm a big fan of colorful shirts, and I like Goyabada's shirts as well. Mm-hmm. And I wear a straw hat. I've been mistaken for Cuban when I'm in Miami, and I can speak enough Cuban to order a coffee, right? Yeah. Like, and then when they start asking other stuff, it's like, I don't know. But this guy, he still had the same pair of scissors that he had when he left Cuba.
Wow.
Like, and they were in a little display box.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, because I guess he left Cuba with nothing but a pair of scissors. I mean, I'm sure he had other stuff, but he had the same, I guess he was a tailor in Cuba, and he left Cuba when Castro came to power, and he came to America, and he started working as a tailor. I tell you, if you ever want a good essay on why communism is bad, talk to someone from Cuba or from Venezuela.
Oh, for sure.
The last time I was down in Miami, I think it was for the Miami Half Marathon. And I remember my Uber driver, I was talking with my Uber driver, and I was saying, I was thinking about coming down here to live. And he said, well, if you come down here to live, don't live in Miami, live up in Boca Raton because there's too many Cubans. He was Venezuelan, I was talking with him.
They don't like each other?
I guess not.
Okay.
But I was talking with him. Apparently, in his country, he had been a surgeon. I mean, like, you don't know if they're lying, right? But he came from Venezuela, and he became an Uber driver, and he's probably doing better here in America than he did back in Venezuela as a surgeon. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Well, they've got a two. I don't want to say caste system because that's kind of more of an Indian thing, but in Cuba they've got you've got two paths you can go. You can go the communist path where you wait in line, you get meat, food and rice or whatever provided to you by the government, and you do a government job or whatever.
Okay.
And then everything's communist. I'm not using my words well, but it's basically you're under the communist system. You can opt out, though. And all of the taxi drivers are the guys that have opted out. There's other jobs, too, but taxis, anytime you see those old cars, John, pull up some old cars from Cuba, the 1950s rods or whatever. But all those taxi drivers in Cuba, they are all the second path, which is you can go entrepreneurial and run your own business. Now, you have to pay the government to do that, a monthly fee, whatever, or an annual fee, or however that works. But so you can be paid by the government, your fixed rate, and you can get your fixed food, and everything can be provided for you, and it's just locked in. Basically like a union, that sort of deal. Or you can go out on your own and try to make as much money as you can, but you've got to pay your dues to be able to do that.
Wow.
And so, pull up any of those, dude. This is it, man. When you go to Cuba, that's it on the left there.
Yeah.
Zoom in on that one.
Yeah,
John.
the old 1950s cars. There's probably not an original part on the inside.
Yeah, the row of cars you got on the right there. Just zoom in on that. The West Coast shipping. Oh, there you go.
Wow, that's amazing.
The cookies. You'll see that, man. This is not a joke. This is not a staged photo. Like they did a photo shoot. Like, this is it. You're walking down the street, and there's just all these awesome cars lined up on the road, and you can just hop in one of them. Now, what you say about original parts is actually interesting.
Yeah.
Because there are guys there, and I was in a 55 Bel Air on my way leaving Cuba to go to the airport. Mm-hmm. And we stayed in a Casa Particulares in Havana, and it was a private home.
Yeah.
It wasn't a Casa Particulares where they were just anybody could walk up, because that's how you do it in Cuba. If they got the sign on the thing, you just walk up and knock on the door. This one was private. They didn't have a sign, but they had I think it was an Airbnb directly, but it was a nice home. But everything is frozen in time. That's so weird, man. You walk in this house, and it's like James Dean or Frank Sinatra could have lived here in a posh house, but in 1965.
That's crazy.
So you walk in, and everything looks like it's frozen in time in 1965, and it's a very nice house for 1965, but it has nothing new in it.
Wow.
And that's how even the upper middle class Cubans seem to live, is that they're getting everything that's frozen in time. Even the nice stuff is still like older stuff, it seems. At least that's my impression. We get in his 55 Bel Air. It is mint condition. Mint. Everything, the headliner, the upholstery, everything is original parts. The only thing he changed in that 55 Bel Air, he put in a modern stereo. Okay. So you could, tune in the whatever, the Bluetooth or MP3. Yeah, that's the only change. I asked him to open the hood, all original parts.
How is that possible?
Exactly. They have a whole black market for these parts. So anyone listening, you told me this earlier, anyone listening, we're looking at pictures of old cars on the street in Cuba, and it looks all original. It looks like a picture frozen in time because the architecture is old. The whole scene looks old. It looks like a picture that could have been taken, 1965 or something, 1955, and it's a really cool place. So I didn't mean to spend so much time on Cuba, but they're cool people.
That's actually a pretty good segue. I was just, pardon me, I was just on the TV news in Poland for talking about getting NATO aircraft over to Ukraine, and one of my arguments, one of the reasons it might be a good idea, is that Russian jets, where's the major parts supplier? Russia. There are some NATO-based part suppliers that manufacture parts for these jets, but for the most part, your biggest part supplier is the guy you're fighting, right? Except for the SU-25, I think it's still made in Georgia, or the parts are made in Tbilisi, Georgia. But where are you going to get the parts for that? So that was one heck of an argument for Western fighters, because sooner or later you're going to run out of parts for the MiG-29s and any Su-27s that you might have remaining. That's a big deal.
I forget which vehicle it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the BTRs or the tanks, but they're using French optics. Well, what do you do when those things need maintenance, man? Because is France helping you out now? And I'm thinking, France, what are you doing even providing optics to Russian war machines? That's kind of weird too. But yeah, there's a number of French tactical vehicles that are using French optics. It's weird.
That's amazing. These are Russian vehicles that are using. I actually did not know that. I could have sworn I heard something about French chips. and maybe some
See
French.
if you can find that, John. I need a fact check on that because I know that I read that. I know that Russian tanks or armored vehicles are using French optics, something like that.
That's one of those things that's easy to believe because there's always, in project management, there's make versus buy, right? So if you're Russia, I'm sure Russia has the capability of making their own optics. They're a modern country. They have the capability of making their own optics. They have the capability of fabbing their own chips.
Sure.
Just maybe not at the scale that they want. If it's more expensive to make it, it might be cheaper to buy it. Although I think we are going to see a point fairly soon where, well, I don't think anyone's going to buy anything Swiss ever again.
How so? Or why is that?
You look at the Gepard, right? The German anti-aircraft vehicle. The rounds are manufactured by Switzerland, and Switzerland won't sell any rounds to Ukraine.
Mm.
So either you have to spin up production of your own parts. I don't know what the tooling is like to get, those. And plus, I don't know if there's licensing issues. If you're going to make that same kind of shell, is that like a licensing thing?
Yeah, like a royalty or something.
Yeah, I don't know the story behind that. So, if you look at Switzerland and go, well, Switzerland might not be a reliable partner in the future, why would you ever buy a weapon system from them again?
It's true.
I can understand they want to remain neutral, but I have a hard time seeing how anyone can remain neutral in this conflict. And whenever looking at, Russia and Ukraine, whenever I analyze something, I try my best to be unbiased when it comes to composition, disposition of forces and their capabilities. I'm actually one of the few people who don't believe the Russians are stupid. Nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, you know what? I want to do a bad job today. I want to get my whole platoon killed. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
And if you are doing that, you're a freaking sociopath, right? Yeah. So I think one of Russia's big issues is training. When you got a country with an economy the size of New York State or Texas, and you're trying to field an army, a navy, an air force, a strategic rocket forces, and a space program, and something's got to give.
Yeah, they're spread pretty thin.
If New York had to maintain an army, navy, space program, and all that stuff, New York would be pretty screwed, all by itself. So something has to give, and I think that thing is training. And it's easy to go like, well, we just won't train our soldiers on this right now. We'll push it to next year, and sooner or later that bill comes due.
Yeah,
it certainly came due here, But I've even, it's funny. I've had Russian soldiers reach out to me, and this is something people don't believe.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, again, you don't know like how true it is, but sometimes it's just the language that they use.
Sure.
And I've had Russian soldiers reach out to me, and usually they're asking like, hey, it's almost always through Discord, but they're like, hey, one of my buddies is in this town. Can you check to see where the front lines are right now?
And they don't know?
They don't know.
They have no mapping information? Like,
I guess not at that level. I talked with one guy who's the Starshina, which is, I guess, the Russians don't really have a platoon sergeant, so I guess the closest thing I was or you were was a Starshina, which is like a first sergeant,
sure,
kind of thing. But this one guy was saying like, hey, I'm in Crimea right now. We're moving out to the front line tomorrow. Can you tell me where that is? I was like, you also don't know if it's some FSB agent. Like, let's see if we can get Ryan to admit.
Well, it's almost public information. Quick pause here. Did you find the French thing, John?
Yeah, there's a observer saying Russian tanks use French technology.
Russian tanks are using French. Sorry, I didn't mean to segue back, but Russian tanks are using French technology on the battlefields of East Ukraine. There you go. But will Russia's new Star tank, the Armata T-14, also rely on EU components? Blah 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 blah. Okay, so yeah, we've got confirmation from this. EUobserver.com saying they're using French. I knew it was some kind of vehicle. So they're using French optics, which is definitely a problem when now France is like, well, we don't want to help you out, provide maintenance on these parts, right?
Why would you?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't.
Why would they even sell them in the first place? It's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Seems kind of weird.
I had thought, like, I don't see, like, I know Ukraine is not perfect. When America was going through its revolution, we weren't perfect either, and France stepped up and helped us out.
It's true. Yeah, that's true.
And so you look at Ukraine, and they are not perfect. There's corruption there. There's military leaders that aren't so good at what they do. But at the same time, like, they're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
It seems like they're trying to figure it out. And so when I look at people who support Russia, it's almost like I've likened it to Harry Potter.
Mm.
All right, so why is Harry Potter so popular?
That's a great question.
Okay, well,
sorry to any Harry Potter fans listening. I just never got in. I think it was a little past my time.
It was past my time too, but I read the first book, and I think I saw one of the movies. I think The Prisoner of Azkaban or whatever when I was in Egypt.
Yeah,
and so I think that Harry Potter's popular because as a child you have zero agency. You don't even get to decide what goes into your mouth, right?
It's a good point.
And so to think, like, to have this fantasy of, like, a world where you as a child could be a powerful wizard and there's this secret world that nobody else knows about, that's a very powerful fantasy for someone to have.
That's a cool viewpoint, man. I never thought about that.
So if you work all day at your crappy job and, you come home and your kids are yelling at you and your spouse is yelling at you, and then you close that door and you get on that computer and all of a sudden you're in this world where only you know the truth. Only you know that, Russia's powerful. Russia is going to win. Russia will destroy Ukraine in the next 3 weeks. And it's a very tempting thing to get involved in because it's the secret world, just like Harry Potter. It's a secret world that only you know and nobody else understands.
That's cool, man. You're like peeling back the layer of the psychology of people. Like,
I get it. I get it all the time. I have a whole folder of the hate mail and the death threats, and I have people who are like, why do you tell people you live in Silver Spring? Or, I saw outside your window. Like, I know where you live.
I saw outside your window. Oh, in one of your videos?
Yeah, one of my videos.
Yeah.
Like, look, I'm old enough to remember a little thing called the phone book. All right? And everybody's name and address and number was in this thing called the phone book. And you could open up the phone book. And that's how the Terminator found Sarah Connor.
Dude, I was just going to say it. He was looking for John Connor and Sarah Connor with two fingers and found them on the same page. Yeah.
Yeah, he was looking for Sarah, Sarah Connor. Like, you try to Sarah Connor me. I've got 12 reasons why that's a bad idea. And I can get a spare mag too. So
that's right. I've got 12 reasons. I like it.
Oh, I love my Sig. I love my Sig P365. I used to carry a Keltec 10-round capacity, one in the chamber. I used to like my Keltec, but shooting it's like playing patty cake with a hammer. I think I told it when I went and got my Ridge wallet, it was because my doctor was like, hey, you need a smaller wallet. I'm like, all right, I'll go get a Ridge wallet. And then I got the Ridge sponsorship and was like, oh, all right, yeah, this thing, I have no more pain. Yeah, I have no more sciatica pain because I got a smaller wallet.
Yeah, use the joke of the George Costanza wallet. He's sitting on this thing. He's got to get a pile of napkins to level himself out. It's like, dude, come on.
Well, I used to pocket carry my my Keltec, and then I got the Sig, and I went to the 3 o'clock position. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I went to the 3 o'clock position with my Sig, and I really like it. And shooting it is a freaking joy. Like, it doesn't hurt when I shoot the darn thing.
It's got a nice trigger.
It's freaking amazing. Yeah. Sig totally outdid themselves.
Yeah, I got a buddy. He just bought his girlfriend the 365X. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know what the clarification is of what the X does, but I know it's same platform of the 365.
Same platform. So I have the XL. I have the 365 XL because it just fit my hand better, you know. And I think the 365 is short, and the 365X gives you a longer barrel but the shorter grip, and the 365 XL fits your hand, completely. You can get all 4 fingers on the thing.
Yeah, I like that. You get the full purchase. I have the Glock 45s. Mm-hmm. Not as my concealed carry because that's too big to have inside your waistband. I need a bigger pair of pants, but for my outside the waist carry. And then I have the I forget what every gun person's gonna be mad at me that I don't know the name of stuff, but it's the extenders, the wide nerves of the pistol grip because my hand's big. So when I was closing grip on just the stock one, I was like, I've got too much over grip on it, and so I put the widener, the extender, the back paddle, or what it's
rear grip module or whatever.
Yeah, so I put those on, and now it's like my hand's perfect on it, and so I like that.
Curtis Hallstrom, VSO Gun Channel. He's a YouTuber. He's a gun YouTuber. He was the guy. Curtis Hallstrom suggested this particular platform, and I haven't looked back. It was great advice, and I actually would strongly suggest anyone go to Curtis Hallstrom's channel, VSO Gun Channel. He really knows his stuff, and he's the guy that I went to see when I was going to prove to see whether civilian AR-15s would actually be useful as a platform in Ukraine.
Oh, that was your video?
That was my video.
I saw that. Okay.
That was on the VSO Gun Channel. But it was, what we discovered was that the 1 in 8 twist, it's actually pretty darn accurate.
It'll do it.
It doesn't have automatic fire. I don't know what you'd use it for, final protective fire, or for an ambush, but I was wrong. That would be a fairly effective platform. And actually, Curtis said something interesting. Now, I don't own an AR. I don't know where I would shoot it. I go to the range.
Got to come out here to Texas, bro.
Well, it's funny you say that. So I own 3 pistols and 1 rifle. I own my Beretta 92FS, which was given to me when I retired. I had the NCO grips on it. My rank was on there. It was nice. And my Keltec, which is my carry gun. Now I have my SIG. But I also own a Ruger 1022, and I always had this fantasy of being that uncle that takes their nephews to the range.
That's it, man.
And, Stephanie, if you just let me take your kids. I'm just saying, Stephanie. So my brother, my brother is okay with me doing it. His wife isn't so crazy about it,
Let me do a thing here. All right, Stephanie. Stephanie's your sister.
Well, sister-in-law.
Sister-in-law, Stephanie. I was a marksmanship instructor in the Marine Corps for 10 years, among other things. And I can say that the art of marksmanship is an incredible skill to learn, because on the range, you can learn breath control, body positioning. You learn about your anatomy, how to move yourself, how to control and relax to get that shot. It's about precision, beauty. And when you make that shot and it hits that center ring, it's a beautiful thing. It builds confidence. It instills pride in yourself. It helps you develop skill sets, hand-eye coordination. It helps you understand geometry, how to understand the ballistics of the weapon, how to understand the weather patterns, to read them, to understand distance. It's an incredible art to learn. And so, Stephanie, let Ryan take the kids out to go shooting, because it's a really fun activity, and it doesn't have to be their whole thing, right? It's not their life. It's just something that adds to the toolbox of their skill sets as they grow as kids.
That's actually how I feel. I actually don't consider myself a gun guy.
Yeah,
I know, everybody in Europe who's listening right now is saying, well, if you own a gun, you're a gun guy. Well, I own a car. That doesn't make me a car guy.
That's good. Yeah,
I own a couple of firearms. I have a fire extinguisher. I'm not a firefighter either.
Right.
To me, a firearm is nothing more than a tool that I will use, God forbid, to put out a fire. Or once in a while, maybe go to the range, have some fun. But I go to the range maybe once every 6 months. It's just, and I used to not own a car. Mm-hmm. I live in Washington, D.C., and you can get around. Well, I live right outside of Washington, D.C., 2 blocks away. I actually didn't move to D.C. proper because I own the Beretta with 15-round magazines, and those magazines have a dollar value. And if I move to D.C., then I have to go down to 10-round magazines or pin them to 10 rounds.
Isn't that funny? 2 blocks away.
2 blocks away.
You can carry 5 extra rounds.
I can carry 5 extra rounds.
That's funny.
It's the principle of it. And technically in Maryland, you're limited in capacity as well, but you can bring in stuff from out of state. Like, you're not an instant felon. If you walk into D.C. with a 15-round magazine, you're an instant felon.
Wow.
So I actually moved to Maryland specifically because of that, you know. And I'm not a gun guy, but it's just the principle of it. You know, like I stole these magazines from the Army fair and square. I don't have the statute of limitations as
Yeah.
Well, you know, they're in your gear. I used to I tell
They, for the record, everyone, they were going to be dermoed. All right, they were going to go to the trash.
Yeah, I used to be the biggest. I'm not going to say I was a thief, but I was the scrounger. I was that guy.
Yeah.
Like, I used to when I was in Iraq. One of the big problems we had was getting shotgun ammo. And so whenever we were on Victory, we would go Camp Victory. We would go to Camp Striker, which was it was like the transient barracks. Like, everyone come into Iraq who was flying into the Baghdad would stay at the transient, like in the tents in Striker. And
would you mind just real quick, just bring the mic a little closer to you?
How about that? Yeah,
it's good.
So
thanks.
So we'd be at Striker, and I had like a Dremel, like a cordless Dremel. And so I'd go to the amnesty boxes with the cordless. And the amnesty boxes are these wooden boxes that have a little slot in them or a little hole, and you can, if you realize, oh crap, I have ammo on me, and you're about to fly out of the country, you just drop the ammo in the little amnesty box. Nobody asks any questions. And then once a week or whatever, EOD comes by and empties the amnesty box. So I would, the amnesty boxes are locked with a hasp, but they're screwed in. The tops are just plywood that are screwed in. So I would just take my cordless Dremel, go over to the amnesty box, open the amnesty box up, search around in it for any shotgun shells, take the shotgun shells out, put the amnesty box on, close it back up again. No harm, no foul.
Good
right?
sound effects.
I needed the shotgun shells more than the box did.
Yeah,
right?
the box doesn't need it. Yeah.
So I remember one time I did that. I found a mortar round in there. Like, oh, okay, I'm closing this one back up. I don't want to deal with whatever this thing is.
What transpired that a dude is getting ready to go home, and they're like, hey, last chance to turn in all your stuff, and he still had a mortar round on him.
Privates are stupid. There was a guy who, I remember he brought a purple smoke grenade home from Egypt. And like, I know we were like off post and like at a party, and he like lit it off, and I was like, oh my God, the police are gonna come, they're gonna get a lot number off this thing, and they're gonna, I'm thinking like the police know to go and get the lot number off of it and all that, but I'm thinking like an NCO.
If it's an army town, they do.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. I once got into an accident in Pennington, New Jersey, which is right where the Fort Dix and McGuire is. I remember the police did not give a darn that you were in uniform. Like, oh, we're giving you all sorts of tickets now, boy.
In a military town, they do not care. I'll almost hit you harder with the hammer.
Mm-hmm.
When I came back from Iraq, I checked. There was a reserve base there, and I had to go do something, drop off something, or there's a Marine Corps unit there. So I did something there, and I'm heading home, and I'm in uniform because I just got back from Pendleton, and I lived in Las Vegas. That's why I'm in Vegas. So I leave Pendleton, I'm in Vegas, and I'm on my way home, and I'm speeding because I always speed. So anyone listening, if you see me on the road, I'm going 10 miles an hour faster than you, but at least. But cops pulled me over, and I mean, I got all my kit, my pack, everything's in the back, and the guy's like, why are you in uniform? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I just got back home, and they go back and they check my plates or whatever, and they're like, all right, go ahead. Like, and at that time in 2003, I mean, you could get away with murder. I mean, if you're in a uniform, I mean, they're just like, all right, see you later, buddy. And so I didn't get a speeding ticket from 2003 to like 2006. Yeah, and I got pulled over a lot.
But I used to know a guy. I think I was up at Drum, and he's actually the guy that got me into DMX, the rapper. So
you met him?
No. So let me back up for a second. So this guy, I think his name is Specialist Turner, and he used to. He was a veteran of I want to say Grenada. It might have been Grenada. It couldn't have been because he was still a specialist. It might have been the first Gulf War. It was probably the first Gulf War. And I remember, like, he was 82nd Airborne, and he had his uniform, in his car window, so facing out, so that way, like his dress uniform. So that way, if he got pulled over, the police would see he's a paratrooper with a combat patch, and a CIB, and maybe not give him a ticket. I remember he was the guy that introduced me to rap music, like gangster rap music, which people might look at me and not think that I'm into DMX. But years ago, I think there was some command and staff change of command ceremony. I remember, like, I had to like put the chairs away. I was a new private, putting the chairs away. And I remember, this guy drove me back to the barracks. And he put in a CD of DMX, It's Dark and Hell is Hot. And the song ATF came on. Boom, 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 open the door, ATF. Too late to send my girl downstairs, say left. I lace the floor with the hollows, crack the safe, crack the balls. What you gonna do? Beep collars. 2 blocks over the call back fence. I keep the hoopty pock for situations like this. There go, priest, get in, you drive. What you trying to do, my ninja? Trying to stay alive, yeah. So I switched one word in that because I don't say that other word.
Yeah, right? Ninja. Yeah.
So
we heard it.
So I could keep going. Too,
yeah.
Right? So I heard that. I heard that song, and I was like, "This is the most amazing thing I've ever heard." It told a whole story.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with freaking DMX. That actually began my love of like gangster rap. DMX, Big Pun, Fat Joe. I don't know. I remember that song by Shaggy, It Wasn't Me.
Yeah, of course.
It wasn't me. Then he's going to be in the shower. It wasn't me. Like DMX would be like, it was me.
Yeah.
That's gangster.
He owned it, yeah.
Yeah, it was me. What you going to do? Woo!
Yeah.
So I kind of fell in love with, that's one of the neat parts about the military. You meet people that you would never, ever meet outside of your regular life, and it changes you and gives you these incredible experiences.
Yeah. I had you're absolutely right, man. I had in MOS school, we had 2-man rooms, and so I had my roommate was black. He was Lance Corporal Davis, and so he had been in the Corps a year longer because he was injured in boot camp, and so because of the time in service and all that, he got promoted to Lance Corporal. So we're all PFCs and privates, and he's a Lance Corporal. But Lance Corporal Davis, if you're listening, I miss you, buddy. Haven't talked to you in 20-something years, so let's get together. But he was my roommate, and so one of the class instructors was black, and I had this album of greatest hits from the 60s Motown or something like that. So Al Green is on playing. And so the instructor walks in, and he looks at Davis. Davis, you listen to Al Green? He goes, no, that's Wagner's. And he goes, Wagner? You listen to Al Green? Like the look on his face, like the sour look that he couldn't believe that Wagner, this white guy, is listening to Al Green, and it wasn't the black Lance Corporal. But that's what's so cool about the military is you have these people from all these different backgrounds. They have all these different preferences and tastes, and it all merges together. And it's really cool, man, because you got into DMX, I got into Motown, and we were talking about some other stuff before we started recording, just like the experience of like going to Iraq and experiencing the Iraqi culture and observing them and who they are as a people. It's really cool to absorb the good qualities of other cultures and make that your own and own it, because it's fun. It makes it fun. It makes life fun. It makes life interesting because you're not closed off to just your one little box. And that's fine if that's what you're into. But for me, I love to travel. I love to absorb other cultures. Yeah. And I know that you've been doing that. You've been traveling the world yourself.
No, I got to tell you, the Iraqis are the Germans of the Middle East. Like, these guys are the hardest freaking workers. All of them got to hustle. They all got to hustle. Like, the Iraqis are the Germans, and like the Egyptians are the Italians.
Okay.
And what's funny is that I learned Arabic when I was in Egypt. And so when I go to Iraq and I open my mouth, people they can't believe it, because an Egyptian accent to an Iraqi is like a Minnesota accent to us, to Americans.
Really?
Yeah. And so like the Iraqi, they would call me Ryan al-Masri, Ryan the Egyptian.
Okay.
You know, and it really worked out well because I would say something and they would think it was the funniest freaking thing in the world.
Can you give me an example?
Or Iowa. That's actually one word I say is Naam is yes in Gulf Arabic, like the proper way.
Yeah.
And Egyptians say Iowa, like, yeah. You know, it's just like a more casual way of saying yes. But if you say Iowa, and I guess Wainel is, I guess, the Egyptian way of saying where. Fein is, I think, the proper way of saying where in. I hope I'm not mixing that up, but it's been like, you know, if you don't use it, you lose it.
You do, yeah.
You know, I told you about the chicken sandwiches.
Oh, dude, we got to tell this story.
Chicken sandwiches story. So
this is a great story.
So when I was in Egypt, you know, we were on the board between Egypt and Israel, and we basically made sure the peace treaty of 1979 was being obeyed by all sides. And the Egyptian MFO rotation, it's a great duty. You can get your EIB while there. I mean, I don't know what it's like now, but like back in the 2000s, it was kind of like that.
What's the EIB?
Expert Infantry Badge.
Okay.
So, you know, you have a lot of opportunities to go to school. You have the opportunities to travel to Cairo and Israel, see the Western Wall, see the pyramids. I saw the pyramids. I was like, wow, it's the pyramids. Okay, what? There's nothing to do there. It's
right.
Like no, you know, like oh, that's pretty cool. That's a whole story in itself. But so we were. The coalition for the MFO, the Multinational Force and Observers, it's like, I want to say 17 different nations, might be less now, might be more. But Norway is part of it, Fiji, Colombia. I worked the Colombian army there. They are some of the best darn light infantry in the world. Colombian, I have immense respect for the Colombian military. They are amazing light infantry soldiers. But the New Zealanders were there as well, the French, the Italians, but the New Zealanders were our instructors, and they were also our inspectors. So they would come out to site and make sure like you had all the ammunition at your site, and they would check all your seals, and they would make sure your water was good, you know, because we had these cisterns full of water. Now at these remote sites, these are out in the middle of nowhere. These are remote, almost like cops, combat outposts. We had bunkers and we had, you know, barbed wire and stuff like that. But our trailer, not all, but some of our trailers were air conditioned. We had like satellite TV. We had like a little area where we could, like, we had a site cook, and he would make, you know, food every day, and we would barbecue. Like, I got jacked while I was there. Like, you know, I've always been like kind of on the heavy side. Like, I've always been like 10 pounds more than I should be, right? But while I was there, like, all we had to do was like lift weights and like eat steak, you know, like I got, and then I came home, it was like,
yeah.
It's like a balloon that had shrunk, right?
Yeah.
So when we occupied site one day, taking over for the crew that had been there before, and my site cook was in the freezers looking around. He's like, hey, Sergeant, there's these chicken patties. There's 2 big bags of these breaded chicken patties that were going to expire.
In the freezer?
In the freezer, in the site freezer. And I guess the previous group had ordered them, and they just didn't eat them. And, you know, so I'm sure logistically, when they give you food they think you're going to eat. They give you the stuff that's going to expire first, right?
Sure.
So I guess the previous group didn't eat them for whatever reason, and so we had them, and I'm thinking, like, I don't want these things that are about to expire here in case the New Zealanders stop by, because they'll give you a demerit, you know, and if you get too many demerits, and you can't be site commander anymore. And that, you know, not that big of it. I mean, the Hungarians were there, too. They would give you speeding tickets. You know, it doesn't
literally.
It doesn't, yeah. If you went too fast on post, let me tell you. One crazy thing about the Hungarians, I was talking with this Hungarian MP or FMP. They call themselves FMPU, the Hungarian Military Police. I was talking with this guy, and he had been a Hind pilot, the Mi-2024 Hind D pilot. And we were talking because I had been in around the same time he had been, and we both realized that we had both been trained to kill each other.
Oh, jeez.
And now we were friends, right? Like, we were sitting at the Hungarian bar.
What a meeting.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like, he was now a captain in the Hungarian Military Police, or FMPU. So, I was looking at this food. And I did not grow up with a lot of money. My dad was a warehouse worker. The army was a way for me to get out of that. I was in school to be a carpenter. I was in wood shop in high school and all that. I did not grow up with a lot of food, and the idea of wasting food just really, really bothered me. I hated the idea of wasting food. So I was like, well, let's just cook it all. So we ate chicken sandwiches for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for like 2 days straight. Yeah. And after 2 days, some of my guys were like, hey, sorry, yeah, chicken sandwiches again. You have something different, sorry. And when soldiers are complaining about food, like, that's like the one thing that gives them pleasure, right? So I was like, well, let's just, I can give it to the Egyptians. Now, across the street from us, there was this Egyptian border guard post. And this Egyptian border guard post, it was like a cement block shack, and they had a 55-gallon water drum outside. And once a week, a truck would come by and fill up the 55-gallon water drum. And that was the water drum that these border guards would drink out of, bathe out of, do their ablutions out of, and cook out of.
How many guys?
2 guys.
2 guys, okay.
And
so 2 guys, 55 gallons a week to do everything. Okay.
And so I remember, like, I would go over there at night because there was another guy. One of my team leaders was a Muslim black guy. And so I would go over there at night to practice my Arabic, and he would go over there. He would pray with them and, like, I guess study the Quran. Like they didn't seem as interested in studying the Quran as he, like, they wanted to watch like soap opera, like action shows. Like they had these Egyptian action shows on their little black and white, 14-inch TV, So I go over there, and I knew the guys, and I went over there with these bags of chicken, and they were so happy. Oh, shukran zalizan. I did with my left hand. Shukran zalizan manun katil. Like, well, thank you so much. We're very grateful. They wanted to make sure it wasn't pork. It was chicken.
What are the words again? Shukran.
Shukran. Thank you.
I know shukran. And then what's the other word?
Zalizan. Oh my God. Manun. I'm very grateful.
Okay.
Very many thanks. I am very grateful. Shukran zalizan. Manun. I am katil. Grateful.
Nice.
But I, like, through my English or through my Arabic and their English, what I discovered was that these guys only got meat when they rotated back to their main base. And even then it was what they called army meat. And the only thing I can think of is that army meat was meat that had been rejected by their USDA, like their equivalent of their inspection services.
Yeah.
So
it's terrible.
If you had bad meat, you could still sell it to the army. And so it struck me like the U.S. military is powerful, not because of our Patriot missiles and our M1 tanks and our ACOGs. It's because we can get more breaded chicken patties halfway across the world. And the Egyptians couldn't even feed their own people in their own country.
Yeah.
And that was like, wow, that blew my mind. And then going to Iraq and seeing, like, I remember I was at, I guess it was Spiker. I feel like, okay, John, can you look up the VBC Victory Base Complex map? Like, now it's bothering me. Was it Stryker or Spiker? I can't remember the darn, right next to Camp Cropper and right next to Biop. So for people who are listening, there is a VBC Victory Base Complex was this massive base. It was this massive base in Iraq, and it was, there were like 4 FOBs. There was Cropper, Liberty, Victory, Biop, Spiker.
What are we looking for again? Just one more.
I guess you could say VBC Victory Base Complex. Future, that was VBC another FOB.
Victory Base Complex.
Yeah.
Well, we got pictures of guys there.
Maybe Victory Base Complex map. Iraq, you say Iraq Victory Base Complex. Yeah. So it was this massive base that covered the entire airport,
Victory
and the
Base
road
complex, yeah.
The road, Route Irish, longest 10 minutes in the world.
Go to the far right there. Is that what we're looking at? That might be something.
To the bottom, that might be it. Yeah, it's like
see
pink
that one?
and green. And,
see all that pink and green stuff?
Yeah.
Let's see that one. Let's see if is that what you're looking at?
That might be
zoom
it.
in on that. Just hit the zoom on the screen. Oh, that might be it.
That might be. I think that's a green zone.
Continue.
Yeah, it's fine. The green zone is actually...
Go back to Google Pictures and just zoom in on that picture, like with the screen, the touch screen.
Oh,
2-finger touch. You got to do it outside of that picture. There you go.
Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, North Victory by app. It's fine.
You got to scroll. You can't touch the picture itself. You got to touch the stuff outside of that picture.
What's crazy is when you think about it.
We got to figure that out. How to do that?
It's been almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, that's nuts. It's been 20 years since, trying to remember all this stuff from 20 years ago.
Dude, it is. I thought about it. I thought about my time in Ukraine, and I'm like, I know so much of my memory of what happened in Iraq when I was there in 2003 is lost. It's just lost the time. I forgot. And that's like, I would have to, Nair, if I can ever get you to listen, like, I know you were there with me, some other dudes, like, I got to get in touch with these guys, and we got to remember this stuff, because it kind of just gets lost to time, and it's like, who were we talking to? What were we doing? It's like, I remember the big stuff, but it'd be nice to fill in some of those smaller gaps, right?
My biggest regret is not taking enough pictures.
Yeah.
Because at the time, I have pictures when I was a private, and I have pictures, like a couple pictures on deployment. But I think, at the E6, Staff Sergeant, Sergeant First Class, E7 level, you feel self-conscious. Hey, take my picture, and you can't do that. You can't do that because you miss all these moments. And I didn't have a phone in my pocket with a camera. I think in Egypt I had a regular film camera back when they had film, and I think in Iraq I had this pink, this pink camera that was like a digital camera. I think I got pink because my towel was pink as well. All my towels are pink because then guys wouldn't steal them. I know.
Yeah, no one's gonna steal a pink towel.
No one's stealing a pink towel, all right?
Right, exactly.
I
had, in Iraq, I had all the wind-up cameras, the Kodak Classic, and then charge the flash, if it's at night or something. I got a couple pictures. I got to look through them. They're hard copies, and I have the film of it. It's the film.
Yeah,
it's the before it's printed out. I have the film of it. We had a rave outside of this. It wasn't a fob. It was some temporary base. It was
a combat outpost.
We use different terms and stuff, and I forgot what they were calling it. But it was basically like one of those temporary deals, rapid resupply point. So we had a rapid resupply point, and it was a university in some town in Iraq, and don't ask me what town it was, but outside of the university. So this one unit had taken up all of the space inside of the wall. Yeah. It was a brick wall of the university. So they took up everything. So we had gone to deliver a bunch of stuff to this unit. Yeah. And so they're like, well, where do we park our trucks? Well, you're going to park outside of the university. So there's no protection. There's no guards. There's no nothing. So I'm going to use this. Can you see this on the camera, John? Okay. So here's the wall. The university is all here, and, the unit has got all their stuff, and it's all taking up all the space. So they're like, well, you can't park here. We have all our stuff. There's nowhere to go. So we park on the outside of the brick wall. Yeah. So here are our trucks, and we drive, and we're on the outside of the wall, and we're just parked there. What do we have? Here's the street with just anyone in Iraq. Yeah. Here's the street. What do we have between us, where we're going to sleep on our truck, and the randomness that's out there, and we don't know? Just some Constantino wire. Oh, wow. That's it, man. And so we're literally, this plastic thing is basically just some barbed wire, and we're just hanging out, and there's the Iraqis. And so it became this trade fest.
Oh, yeah.
It became a mega trade fest. Hold on one second. That's my Ukraine flag. Can you see the Iraqi flag back there? So that Iraqi flag was from Trade Fest.
Oh, wow.
So I had a big American flag, and I had some cash, and so I said, "Hey, I'll give you cash in this American flag for your Iraqi flag." This is a homemade Iraqi flag, and you can see the stitching, and it's obviously like maybe the guy's wife made it or something. You know, on the back end, you can see they just kind of stitched this thing together and home painted it.
Yeah, Iraqis are hustlers, man.
Man, they were hustlers, but you know what? I was so proud to buy this flag off the guy, and so we did Trade Fest. Hold on, let me put this back. Some semblance of order. Okay, so I buy the flag, but not only that.
Yeah.
Remember, I told you last night, ice was a commodity, man. Like, if you could get anything cold, God, it was like, dude, I'll give my left.
I told you about the prisoner we took who wanted cold water.
Yeah. So we're going to, let's talk about the prisoner. But hold on, let me finish this. So we trade for ice.
Yeah.
Oh, man, to get a piece of ice, man. And then we traded for some Lebanese whiskey. The worst garbage that I've ever had in my life. They probably sold us the cheapest thing that there was, but I hadn't had any kind of alcohol in forever, right? We're out in the heat and all that stuff, and so my tolerance level was 0. And so we had Lebanese whiskey. Well, techno was a big thing back in 03.
Okay.
Old school techno, Sandstorm, you know, that kind of techno.
Okay.
So this dude had the Sony Discman with an external speaker. Now, that was futuristic back then.
Yeah.
That was, you had a speaker, not a Bluetooth speaker. It went, instead of a pair of headphones, the wire went to the speaker. And it was not very loud, had no bass to it or anything, but it had sound. And so the dude set up the speaker on the back of a truck outside of the wire. We had the glow sticks. We popped a bunch of those. We put those on the wires, and that's when, you know, the raves you used to swing. Before they had poi, which they have now, that's like the more advanced thing. We were spinning glow sticks. We had the techno music, and all of the Iraqis outside the wire, we had a rave with them, and they were like, go, mister, and this dude's spinning glow sticks, and people are beatboxing, and it's like we had this whole party with the Iraqis, and it was this weird moment where we're on this side of the wire, you're on this side of the wire, we'll trade for goods and whatever, and we had a party with these guys. And so it went from this thing where it was like, any moment now, you know, death is coming.
Yeah.
We're like, they put us in this really crappy situation where the Iraqis were like, they loved it. We were just having a good time. We're there to liberate them, free them from, the tyranny of Saddam. And, later on, I think that they kind of got tired of us being there. But I was there in the very beginning when it was just awesome that we were there. We liberated the country, and we partied with those guys that night, and it was a good time.
Yeah, the prisoner I'm telling you about it. You're right about the ice, because we had taken a prisoner, and this guy, he was Maya, water. And then he started, I got him some water, and he's like, cult. I'm like, cult. And I'm like thinking in my Arabic, cult. What cult? What is that? Cult. And I realized he was saying the English word for cold, like cold. Like, I want to call it, I think the Arabic word was like bismin, or I forget the darn name of the word now. But I'm like, oh no, I want cold water. I don't get cold water. You think you're getting cold water?
So you take this guy prisoner, and he's asking you for you give him water, and he says,
cold
"No,
water.
I want cold water.
Cold water. I want cold water too.
I know you Americans. You have cold water somewhere."
Well, there was a rumor that our body armor had like air conditioning in it, like it would.
What?
I'm like, dude, we don't have air. So there was a guy at I told you this, the Omar. So this kid at the CCR, Criminal Courthouse of Iraq. So we would drive prisoners we wouldn't drive the prisoners. The MPs would drive the prisoners, but we were their front and rear security. And, there was this one guy who worked at the courthouse. His name was Omar, and he was kind of like the marshal's errand boy, the Iraqi marshal's errand boy. And, we would give Omar, $5, and he would go get aish, bread, and, cold Cokes, Iraqi cokes. And I remember, like you'd see this kid, he'd be writing down bumper numbers and stuff. He's Jam. We knew he was Jamal Islamiyah. He knew we knew it was Jamal Islamiyah. And one time, like, I was like, Omar, you gonna kill us? You gonna kill us today? Oh, Bukra, Siddiqui. Tomorrow I kill you. How we are friends? Today we are friends.
Jeez.
We're thinking like this, and he was Shia. It's actually, what's crazy is a lot of the police were Shia. There's two branches of Islam, Shia and Sunni. Shia and Sunni, and there are some Christians in Iraq as well. It was like 10% Christian. I think it was down to like 3% Christian when we were there. Tariq Aziz, that Iraqi minister, he was a Christian. His real name was like Michael something. He changed it to sound a little more Muslim. And I remember there was this one, a lot of the police were Shia. And this one policeman was a Sunni. And I was talking to him once, and he was like, man, there's this girl, I really like her. But, she is Shia, and I really want to marry her, but my family doesn't want me to marry a Shia, and it never used to matter, And I think that when we went in there, Iran took a look at what was going on and was like, all right, this is our chance to exert control. I mean, it was Iran that was supplying all the EFPs, all the explosively formed projectiles. It was Iran that had the knowledge base. They had the manufacturing. Well, there was some Iraqi manufacturing that could make that stuff, but they were funneling all the money, And I think for the most part, the Iraqis wanted us there. But, well, when you're a Shia and you've been oppressed for 50-some years by the Ba'ath Party, and Iran comes in with some money and like, hey, bro, let's take the power back. That's when you're getting all rage against the machine, right?
Yeah.
Like, all right, let's rage. That's one thing. Like, it seemed like the Sunnis, they were pretty cool about us. It was actually a lot of the people that were captured, foreign fighters, like people from Chechnya, people from Syria. It was like Woodstock. Like, if you wanted to jihad, what was kind of nice about Iraq as opposed to Afghanistan is that, like, if you're going to Afghanistan, that was a one-way trip. I don't think even the Afghans liked you. From what I understand, like, a bunch of Chechens tried to go to Afghanistan to try to train the Afghans on sniper stuff, and the Afghans just killed them. Like, we don't want you people here. We just want to live alone. We want our... I don't know. I think probably one of our biggest mistakes in Afghanistan was thinking that we could roll into that country and turn it into a Jeffersonian democracy. And, like, maybe in Kabul, but, like, outside of Kabul, like, the time zone was the year 700.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's just... You can only do so much, That's just kind of what they were happy with.
Well, it's an interesting thought to look to... It's so arrogant, honestly. I mean, as an American culture, I think it's fair for us to look at ourselves and say, what can we do to improve? What can we do to gain some tolerance and understanding of different peoples around the world? And one thing we have is a lot of arrogance. And I think we should tone that down a little bit, because you go to a people that they're happy to live in the year 700.
Yeah.
That's all they want to do, man. They want to farm, live in the land, and it's a beautiful life if you just leave me alone. But the moment you start messing with me and my family, my village, and you guys have your other politics with your nations and you bring it into my village, I'm just going to kill all you guys.
Yeah.
Because I don't want any of that, man. I just want to live in the year 700. Don't come in with democracy or whatever. We're all happy. We're all living our life. My kids are having a good life, herding goats or whatever, right? I'm meaning it in the highest respect of that kind of life. It's just a simple, good life. And to come in and try to say, we're going to give you a better one or whatever, it's like, we're happy with the one we got. And let it just be, man. And so it's a tough deal, because you give the example of Iran coming into some of these Iraqis and saying, hey, we're going to, give you some money and stuff. It's like, in the case where there's a survivalist mentality. Yeah, give me some money and food right now. And it's like, I don't have a 30-year vision of what this country could look like. I don't care about that, because I'm just trying to get fed and trying to feed my family and just worrying about tomorrow. And it's hard for me in this mindset, in this situation that I'm in, to think about what a 30-year vision could look like, because if I don't get fed right now, and if I don't have my basic needs met at this exact time, there isn't a tomorrow. There isn't a 30 years. There's not a year from now. We got to get it settled right now. And so the hearts and minds is winning the hearts and minds, I believe, is truly about understanding who it is you're talking to, who it is you're dealing with. Yeah. And that takes time to let them be who they are and meet them where they're at, meet the needs that they have today.
I don't think Iraq turned around until the awakening, when we gave people PT belts and AKs and paid them $500 a month not to kill us, right? And they kind of said, like, oh, shoot, this really is our country. We really can change things. And, you know, if you're an Iraqi, and I think at the time when I was there the last time, in 08, 09, unemployment was like 30%. And so it's like, you know, if someone's paying you $5 to go dig a hole on the side of a road, I don't care how, if your family is hungry, I don't care how moral you are.
Yeah.
It's very easy for you to say, I'm not going to kill anyone. I'm just digging a hole.
That's it, man. Yeah.
I'm just digging a hole. I don't know what's going in it afterwards. You know, sometimes there's a dude, he's digging a hole, like, oh, he's digging a hole, you know. And
right. He doesn't know why he's digging a hole.
And he gets the kinetic effects of digging that hole.
Yeah.
You know.
He's not a terrorist. He's not a guy that's looking to hurt anybody.
Yeah, he just wants the $5.
Yeah.
Or, hey, guard this. Here's an AK. Guard this warehouse. He's not going to ask what's in it.
Yeah.
Here's $5. Guard this warehouse. And then we kick in the door and freaking arrest everybody. And, you know, he gets caught up in this thing. He just wants a job.
Well, and the extreme example of that is, one, he either gets killed or he gets sent to Guantanamo and give us the intel on the terrorism cell and all. He's like, dude, I'm not a terrorist, man. And there's that's the very terrible, sad side of the whole thing, is that you got a lot of guys that just in the wrong place at the wrong time. They're trying to take care of their families or something, and they don't know any information. And that's the whole way it's set up on purpose, so that they don't know anything.
Yeah.
And nevertheless, they spend how many years in a prison because we can't make them prove a negative.
Yeah.
This is the thing that I think about. It's like they can't prove they aren't a part of a terrorist cell, and because of that, then we keep them locked up because we think, well, we caught you with a gun in a warehouse, right? Is the example. It's like, I can't prove I'm not a terrorist, but the way you're setting up this legal system is that I have to prove that I'm not a bad guy.
Yeah.
How do I prove that I'm not a bad guy? I have no information. I'm a goat herder from a village. I don't have an Instagram account that shows you a history of my activities for the you know what I'm saying? So it puts us in a weird situation because we're playing cop to a culture that we don't fully understand, I think. And it's kind of a pause for effect to think about it. It's like, well, what do we do? How do we improve the lives of these people without demolishing their culture, their identity, and not necessarily making them pissed off at us either?
You mentioned I think of the recent ICC ruling of putting out an arrest warrant for President Putin. I mean, it worked for Slobodan Milosevic, right? They got him. I don't know. That's I don't exactly know how that thing is going to be enforced.
Pull this up, John. This is an interesting topic. The ICC arrest warrant for Putin. BBC's pretty good about that. Is that the?
Would this be a good place to pause? I got to go give birth to a new lieutenant.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, let's do that. All right, go ahead and hit pause. We'll pull this up here in just a second. The judge issues arrest warrant against Putin. Any primary paragraph? Go to the arrest warrant if we can find it real fast. It's a short article.
I think the last time a guy was arrested or had a warrant put out for him who was a state leader, it was Slobodan Milosevic.
Biden welcomes ICC's war crimes charges. Scroll down. Let's read. So the ICC, close that little ad. What's the ICC stand for?
International Criminal Court.
Criminal Court. Okay, I knew it was the International Court. I didn't know what the other C was. The International Criminal Court accused President Putin of committing war crimes in Ukraine, something President Biden said the Russian leader had clearly done. The claims focus on the unlawful deportation of children from Ukraine to Russia since Moscow's invasion in 2022. Moscow has denied the allegations and denounced the warrants as outrageous. It is highly unlikely that much will come of the move, as the ICC has no powers to arrest suspects without the cooperation of a country's government. Russia is not an ICC member country, meaning the court, located in The Hague, has no authority there, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, you were saying earlier, how are they going to have the authority to
I don't know.
enforce this?
I don't know. I don't know what's going through that guy's head. I think that initially, President Putin, he thought like this was going to be a cakewalk. 3 days, hit Kyiv, knock it out, just like Georgia, and it just did not work out the way he was expecting. And I've been on other podcasts where people have said like, well, what did you think that Ukraine would have such success? And like, I can say whatever I want now, right? But honestly, I said, like, well, they have the Javelin, dude. Like, Russia's never had to, no nation has ever had to deal with a fire and forget missile like the Javelin before. Where you could just have a dude who fires and runs, and that Javelin doesn't care how well you trained. It doesn't care, how many tactics you know. It's just going to come at you and it's going to kill you.
Yeah.
Javelin don't care. And now Ukraine has the Bradley, and they have tows that can reach out to 400, 700. Well, if they have the TOW 2 arrow, I think it's 4,200 meters. It's been, oh my God, it's crazy how fast you lose that knowledge. Well, the TOW 2 arrow, 4,200 meters, like that's, my God, like
yeah.
I told you I've had Russians reach out to me. I think like, I don't want anyone to get killed. And I know that you've been to Ukraine, and I know that you've fought the Russians directly. It is kind of different when someone is reaching out to you saying, like, hey, my buddy is in this town. Can you check to see where the front lines are?
More personal.
It is more personal. And I've covered stuff going on in Iran. And, Iranians have asked me to cover some of the stuff with, there have been some chemical attacks against girls' schools in Iran. And back when the Iranian, I guess the second revolution started with Masha Amini, Iranians were reaching out to me. They're like, Ryan, I love your channel. Please help us. Be our voice. Be our voice. And I'm like, what can I do? I can't. What I could do was I could say, all right, well, if you find shell casings, give me the head stamp of the shell casings, and I can try to trace the shell case. I can create a database and trace the shell casings back to where the shell casings are manufactured. And eventually, like, I'm getting like Dishka rounds, and like,
for those that don't know, explain the Dishka.
A Dishka is a Russian heavy machine gun. It's essentially an anti-aircraft gun, or it's a gun that's on some tanks. I know technically it's not on the T-72. It's a different weapon. I forget the darn name of it, but the Dishka is a Russian heavy machine gun. If there is no reason. That's like zombie outbreak mode. There is no reason to fire Dishkas at protesters.
Yeah.
And I'm getting the head stamps of the Dishka rounds. And I'm like, oh my God, well, what are you thinking? And what's crazy is, when you look at something like Iran, America and Iran have a really weird relationship. Because when you think of like American history, we go back 300 years. I actually talked with a British officer once, and I was with one of my lieutenants who had like taken a course at Oxford, and he said like, he was asking this British lieutenant, I went to Oxford, I noticed Oxford didn't have a course in American history, and the officer said, well, it's because America doesn't have enough of the history to have a course about it. Like,
you think Americans are arrogant? Jeez.
Well, actually, what was kind of weird about British officers was that they did not like associate, like, as an enlisted man, as an like, I guess like with British officers, there's NCOs, and there's enlisted, and they don't mix,
Right.
In the American Army, like, you'd be sitting next to a colonel eating lunch, like it's just the seat's open, It's totally common to encounter a colonel.
Yeah.
You know? But I remember like when it comes to Iran, like they have a history that goes back thousands of years. They're a very proud people, you know. And like Iran was once a center of science and knowledge and learning, you know. And it's like today, like it's weird having so many like regular Iranians contact me on a daily basis, saying like, "Hey, this is what's going on in this area of the country. You know, I found these rounds of ammunition." You know, that is crazy to have that kind of environment where I can send me the head stamps of these rounds, and some of these guys like they take out like their fingerprints, like because they're so terrified of their government that they don't want their fingerprints in the picture or the carpet that they used, you know, to photograph the rounds, because you know the government might kick in their door and this carpet's the same as the picture you sent.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
You said you grew up poor in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
You were going to be a carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
And then you joined the Army.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're a software developer. Did you ever think that you were going to be in some kind of position where you could help terrorize Iranian people?
No. Like this whole thing, like I when I started my YouTube channel, you know, it started just as a way to help software developers get job interviews. And then when the war kicked off, I did 2 videos. I did one video on how to kill a tank, and I did another video on cybersecurity, like why Ukraine hasn't been the subject of cyber attacks. And essentially, it's because after I guess it was I want to say it was 2014. Russia launched a bunch of cyber attacks, and Ukraine decoupled a lot of their stuff from the network. I can tell you this, with America, like we should learn from this, because you want to talk about an attack surface, when our toilets are connected to the Internet of Things, like that is a hell of an attack surface.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something we're going to have to think about going into the future. You know, all the stuff that's Internet enabled that my coffee maker at home. My coffee maker is Internet enabled. I can sit in I can sit in bed and go boop and turn on my coffee maker and brew my coffee. I get up, brush my teeth. By the time I get over to my coffee maker, it's done. It's amazing. But that's an attack surface.
Well, I don't see them so much attacking your coffee maker, because that'd just be a waste of effort.
Yeah.
They probably just EMP the whole thing, you know, before they would try to attack your coffee maker.
Well, if you have a smart coffee maker in a government building, that could be a route onto their network, right?
Yeah, if they can get to the coffee maker. But that coffee maker is on the network in the government building behind a firewall. So they have to bypass that firewall before they can even get to the coffee maker. I mean, they'd have to have a guy in the building that plugs in. If the coffee maker has a USB port, he plugs in a thing to the coffee. Then you can tunnel out and tunnel in. But
no, you're absolutely right.
It'd be tough.
I never thought I'd be in this position. Or I never thought I'd be in a position where people recognize me on an airplane or recognize me on the street. And I guess I do have a distinctive look. But, you know, at the same time, it's like I at some point, like I became the Neil deGrasse Tyson of open source intelligence and military topics. But I guess, like, you know, the nightly news, they have enough time to say that Patriot missiles are going to be deployed to Ukraine. But they don't have enough time to explain how a Patriot missile works.
Yeah.
I did my video on Patriot missiles. I interviewed a whole bunch of Patriot crewmen, both the 14 Echoes, the 14 Tangos, amazing soldiers.
Yeah.
Just the smartest soldiers in the Army. You know, literal rocket scientists, these
literally
these Patriot guys. And especially the warrant officers. Just they're walking gods of air defense knowledge. And you know who a lot of people from Saudi Arabia and Poland reached out to me. And they were like, now I know what this equipment that protects my country does.
Yeah.
You know. And I actually, one of my favorite things is whenever someone from another country sends me a patch, I put up their flag. You know, I would love to get a Saudi flag. I'd love to get a Turkish patch or a Colombian patch. I love that stuff.
I noticed that anytime you're doing a video on a specific place, you'll have the flag. In the other monitor. Pull up Ryan's YouTube channel.
Yeah, people initially people were like, "Oh, you're virtue signaling for Ukraine." Like, well, when I talk about Ukraine, I put up a Ukrainian flag. The one thing I won't do is I won't put
Go to
up
the
a
shorts.
Russian.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I won't put up a Russian flag.
That fourth one right there. There it is.
Yeah.
You got the British flag, but also a Ukrainian flag.
Well, the British flag, I put that up after the Queen passed away.
You can mute it or stop it, yeah.
I put that up after the Queen passed away. I left my screen black for a week, until the period of mourning was over. And I have an American flag. I mean, it's kind of sad to say, but I have an American flag ready to go for when President Carter passes away, because he's in hospice right now.
Yeah.
And whether you agree with his politics or not, he certainly wasn't the most effective president. And I think when people think of Carter, they think of malaise, they think of Desert One, and that's actually what's crazy about Iran is that, like, for most Americans, when they think of Iran, they still think of the hostage crisis. It's been over 40 years,
Yeah.
Since that happened. But we still, that's when Iran comes onto the global stage for us. And when we think Iran, we think of the crazy people with the beards and the turbans. And we don't think of all of the people who just want to live their lives.
Pull up. This is an excellent point. Pull up some pictures. Iran, 1974.
Oh, yeah, like
Images.
Mini skirts and stuff.
Yeah, people are just, look at this. Go to the second picture, the fourth picture, whatever. Any picture. Look, man, this is Iran.
Yeah, the Shah wasn't,
You don't have to open let's stay in the images, and we'll just zoom in on those. But, yeah, just scroll through anything with a group of people. Look, man, this is really cool. The women were progressive. They're just wearing casual clothes, jeans.
mini skirts.
Skirts. Yeah, is that a volleyball team on the left? You can look at the difference between, I think this is a before and after. You can see they were wearing regular volleyball clothes, and now they got the whole thing covered up. I mean, it's just representative of an oppression of a people that just wanted to be just hanging out,
And if you want to wear a hijab, I'm
enjoying
cool
their
with
life.
that.
Yeah, of course, if you want to.
Wear two hijab.
But if you're ordering me to,
yeah,
you're telling me what my fashion's going to be. That's a little bit aggressive.
Mashal Mani, why was she killed? Because she wore a hat the wrong way. Like, what the hell? You have this woman who has so much potential in life, and you beat her to death because she wore a hat the wrong way.
Well, who's the real criminal here then? Someone that didn't put the hat on the right way, or the person that's murdering someone and looking for an excuse to exert their sociopathic,
they
psychopathic
beat the crap out of that woman.
Yeah, I mean, you're just a psychopath that's looking for a reason to murder somebody, and now you're living under an authoritarian regime that's allowing you to exert your murderous tendencies.
I would imagine that's great fun if you're a sociopath. One of the I would love there's a video. Oh God, I want to do a video on this so badly. A guy named Arkan.
Okay.
And Arkan, he was a Serbian, he was like a criminal, and he was also married to this beautiful movie star, singer woman. And he also had a soccer team and ran their booster club, and he also ran their paramilitaries during the war in Bosnia, and he was a straight up murderer. But I guess he kind of has folk hero status, like Robin Hood kind of status,
like a Pablo Escobar.
Yeah, like a Pablo Escobar type.
Yeah,
I would love to do a video on this guy. And what's crazy is I have Serbian fans.
This is him right here?
Yeah, that's Arkan. That's Arkan right there.
Yeah.
Arkan and his tigers. He has a little tiger right there.
Unpunished 20 years after leader's death. Yeah.
Yeah. Zatko Radovic, I believe, is the guy's name. But
there he is on the right.
I have enough Serbian fans.
Jelko.
And what's kind of crazy is a lot of my Serbian fans, they like me and they hate me. They hate me for what the U.S. did to their country, when we bombed the crap out of Serbia. And there's still people with cancer from DU, depleted uranium exposure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I guess they know I'm also fair. When it comes to composition, disposition, status of forces. You know, like I'm going to tell the truth when it comes to that stuff. You know, it is kind of weird the relationship Serbia has with Russia, even though Serbs aren't Russians. You know, and actually, I can remember a time when Russia was in KFOR. You know, Russia was in the Kosovo force as part of the stabilization force.
Yeah, it's real interesting if you look back 40 years to now, who is on what side and who's supporting who. It seems like it changes with the wind, but it's hard because I'm not in the culture. I'm not living there, right? So it's hard to judge from a distance across a pond.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're going to do anything with Iran, like as an ongoing?
I do it when I can, like when there's
videos?
stuff to. I mean, I've done stuff about China as well, and China's really tough because you say the word China and YouTube turns your video yellow.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Why? How so?
I don't know what it is. I think that YouTube is deathly afraid of. It could be like an Asian hate thing.
Okay.
Like, and I have no problem with the Chinese people, but the Chinese Communist Party has got to go. Like they're a bunch of jerks.
That's it. I mean, we're talking about the Ayatollahs. We're talking about the Chinese government. We're talking about these people that are in power over good people.
If I make a video,
The people are good.
If I make a video, well, Chinese are mostly. I talked with a guy. He's Chinese. He's living in Australia. And I was speaking with him. It was actually on Discord. So sometimes on Discord, I have my own Discord channel. When I'm driving, I'll hop on Discord and just do the voice chat, and I'll just have people ask me questions. And there's this one dude. He's living in Australia, but he's from China. And like we were talking about, like people were asking me questions. Oh, do you think China will invade Taiwan? And like first of all, when it comes to Taiwan, let's take everything that's crappy about Afghanistan and move it to an island. Like an island with leaves. Taiwan is Afghanistan with leaves. Like every male knows how to use a gun. If you look at the western half of the country, it's all mountains. Like the Taiwanese soldiers and partisans can just sit up in these mountains and just be like, "Okay, boys, it's on." You know, and to have to war is hard. I think that's one thing a lot of people don't seem to understand. You know, when you play a video game like Call of Duty, it's very, very cut and dry, right? It's very, very simple.
1,000%. But it cuts out the whole logistics, the operational planning, the insane amount of effort. You mentioned earlier the chicken sandwiches.
Yep.
And we talked about it last night. What does it take for 100 U.S. troops positioned in Egypt to get chicken sandwiches?
Oh, hundreds of people supporting them.
Who's making the sandwiches? Who's making the buns? Who's making the wrappers that go around the thing? Who's getting the stuff loaded on the plane? Who's responsible for the shipping manifest? Who's responsible? There is 1,000 people in place for you to eat your chicken sandwich in Egypt and not eat it in Maryland or Texas or wherever.
Yeah.
The amount of effort that goes in, and I talked about this in my last episode about like self-deploying to Ukraine.
Yeah.
Like I was responsible for the operations, the supply, the communications, all of that. And it's a mountain of energy to just self-deploy because I had nobody else to do that. And so if you think about the amount of effort that's done to just deploy people. So you're right, war is very difficult, and it's not because it's you and me are pointing guns at each other.
No.
In a way, we can argue that part is easy. It's the most well-trained dude is going to win that gunfight. But
inshallah.
Right.
Like I mean, sometimes it's just not your day.
Sometimes it's not.
I mean, you know, some of the best trained guys, like, you know, you're on a convoy and I rolled over an IED and it hit the convoy in back of me.
Really?
Inshallah.
Wow.
Like that's just it's just not your freaking day. And you know, you could be the best darn trained soldier in the world, and if you're in the wrong place when a mortar lands, you know, that's just you know, inshallah for, you know, it literally means if Allah wills it, but like in a lot of ways, in, you know, in Arabic it means maybe.
Yeah.
You know, maybe. If God wills it, maybe, inshallah. You know, I think it's a great word. Like, you know, who knows? I've had people ask me about Bakhmut. Like, you know, oh, should Ukraine stay in Bakhmut? Yes. Should Ukraine leave Bakhmut? Yes. There's no freaking, it's not cut. War is hard.
Yeah.
There's no cut and dry answer, you know?
Well, Bakhmut's slightly personal. I've got a couple friends that died in Bakhmut. So, strategically, does it even matter?
I don't think so.
Well, in the end, it's not a direct route to Kyiv. It's not a for the Russians. Maybe there's a couple highways that kind of bisect and
the M3 goes up to Slobodanetsk.
Yeah. So there's a couple arguments that could be made for its strategic value, but ultimately, is it the place? No, I don't think so. It's not something like a Kharkiv or Kherson or something. I don't think it holds the same value. But it's given a lot of attention right now because that's just where a lot of the fierce fighting has gone on. And so should they leave? No, because that's where a lot of Russian attention is focused. And so if they take over Bakhmut, then they've got a couple highways that they can cruise down, and we don't want to give them a free run of 100 miles of highway. I don't know if that's the actual distance, but you know what I'm saying.
It's 20 miles, 22 miles. I don't know what that is in kilometers. I got to do math real fast. 40-some kilometers to...
Yeah.
I try it whenever because I have only 45% of my viewers are in America, so I always try to convert stuff to kilometers, you know, for these guys. Like you had told me about government cheese, and I had mentioned, government cheese in 5-pound boxes, but 5 pounds is 2.2 kilometers. I actually... yeah, or 2.2 pounds, kilometers, 2.2 kilograms. For those of you who don't know, we had talked about how when I was younger, the government actually gives you cheese under the WIC program, the Women, Infants, and Kids program. And I'm not a huge cheese fan because when I grew up, we actually got government cheese in these 5-pound blocks or 2.2 kilogram blocks. And so to this day, it's like, oh, I gotta eat cheese. And I probably miss out on some great cheese. I'm sure cheese is amazing, but
there's some. I like the real fancy French stuff with the blueberries in it.
Blueberries?
They put blueberries in the cheese. Oh, forget about it. Slightly heat that up, and you put that on some crackers with a little bit of meat. So then you get the sweetness of the blueberries with the meat and the salty cheese.
Wow.
Forget about it.
I'll eat cheese on a pizza if I absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Actually, a lot of times I'll eat a pizza without any cheese on it. Just one of the things, and it's probably why I'm so fat right now.
Is this it? Zoom in on that picture. Is that it?
Right, government cheese.
Zoom in on this.
That is honest to God government cheese.
I see, and I was kind of impressed, or I was surprised because I always thought government cheese was this euphemism for I'm on welfare and I'm getting a check from the government. There's literally
it's
cheese.
It's the government buys milk from dairy farmers, and because you can't really store milk, but you can turn it into cheese, and cheese is the way to. We actually have like 32 some long-term cheese storage facilities. You can actually probably look that up, John. You can look at government long-term cheese storage facilities. Okay. These underground caves where we have cheese stored. I think there's like 32 some government
cheese caves. Oh my God!
Yes,
look at this.
The government has cheese caves.
Is this the U.S.? Are we looking at the U.S.?
Yeah.
Look at this. So it's wheels of cheese in Missouri. It's weird because you're saying it's Wisconsin cheese, but they're storing it in Missouri. Hundreds of feet below the ground. Why is it hundreds of feet?
It's
what does it matter if it's
cave
50?
They found.
Oh, okay. Hundreds of feet below the ground in Missouri, there are hundreds of thousands of pounds of American cheese, deep in converted limestone mines. There you go.
Yeah.
Caves kept perfectly at 36 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, man, they're going to make us subscribe. Fahrenheit store stockpiles of government-owned cheese comprising the country's 1.4 billion pounds, billion with a B, of surplus cheese. How we got to this point is a long story, and it starts What is the thing you highlighted? So in 77, hey, this is you said Carter wasn't that great. He's the one that implemented your
The
cheese program.
Yeah.
No wonder you don't like the guy. He made you eat that cheese. So in 77, then President Jimmy Carter decided to pour money into the dairy industry to motivate production and alleviate the crisis. The government set a new policy to subsidize dairy, providing $2 billion to the industry over the next 4 years. Let me ask you, so
Yeah.
you're a kid growing up in New Jersey.
Yeah.
You're literally eating government cheese.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about? What are you thinking about your future? They want you to become a carpenter, or you want to be a carpenter? Like what are you thinking about?
I don't think I was thinking much. I can tell you, I don't know. I didn't really think about the future. I knew, like, when I went to school, like, I liked the computers. You know, like, I was in the computer club. Like, I was in the track team and on the computer club. You know, like, you can be both smart and fast. Not so fast now, but you know, you can be smart and fast.
Sure.
And I like the computers. I wanted to do stuff with computers. You know, it was actually my guidance counselor was like, "Well, you don't have the grades. You know, you should be a carpenter." You know, and, like, you know, growing up where I was in Lindenwold, like, yeah, there were plenty of Irish carpenters, and, you know, a lot of them doubled as second-story men. You know,
What's
like,
a second story, man?
like when they're in your house doing work, they're casing the place, and then they sell that information to people who'll come and rob you later.
Oh crap! Really?
Yeah,
That's terrible. So they'll come in and they'll do the work, but they're like, they got a TV in the corner.
Yeah,
and they got.
that's exactly.
Oh my
that's
God.
the second story, man. When I was growing up in New Jersey, you know, my dad worked at a warehouse. He eventually managed a warehouse. He actually got fired. One of the reasons was that at the time, like, the trucking was done by the Teamsters, and at the time, like in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, we actually had a system where stores this company sold women's dresses, and stores that were short on dresses, you know, when they typed in they had, like, scanners, like wands back then, which had the laser on that could read the barcode, and at night, this information would get passed back to the main warehouse saying, like, hey, we sold 7 dresses of this size. So initially, like, my dad, you'd have to do a lighter than, God, I forget the darn name for it, less than load. If Sage from the Sage podcast were listening right now, he'd be screaming at me because he's a logistics guy. But I think there's a term like LTR, less than load, or something like that, where, you know, you can send a truck of less than your normal load to a store to replenish it of dresses. Well, so my dad had a panel van, you know, like the 1970s panel van, you know, and he got the bright idea of just like, well, hey, when stores are low on dresses, I'll bring those dresses to those stores, and I would ride with my dad. Like, I was a little helper, you know.
How old are you at this time?
God, 5, 6, 7.
Oh wow.
Like that.
Okay.
So the early 80s, not the late 70s.
Yeah.
And I would ride with my dad on Saturdays to go to work and pick up the dresses, and then go to the various places in the Philadelphia area that sold these dresses and drop them off. Well, the Teamsters heard about that, and they didn't like that.
Really?
Oh God, no!
Because
Because
that encroached on their.
yeah, well,
gimmick,
at the time, Nicky Scarfo was part of the Philadelphia mob. He ran the Teamsters in Philadelphia. And I remember, like, one day, my dad was like, "Hey, you wanna ride on a truck, like a big rig, like an 18-wheeler?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" You know, I'm 6 years old, riding on an 18. Well, I want to be a trucker when I grow up, right?
Yeah.
Well, my dad took me to work, and I got in one of those trucks. And I don't know what my dad did, but I guess later, you know, I found out he was meeting with members of the Teamsters. And so I was basically like a hostage
What?
for an hour. I was a hostage. I don't know if the mob would have killed me, like would have killed a child back then, but I think it was a way of them saying, we can reach out and touch you whenever we want.
Well, they blockaded the truck, like they made him get out of the truck. Is that the sort of deal?
No, they
or-
just had me ride in the truck, and my dad, I don't know, I guess he went and met with the Teamsters.
Huh.
And so I rode in the truck. And I'm sure it was like hey, I want one of your sons to go for a ride in a truck while we talk with you.
Interesting.
And I went for. I remember.
He wasn't in the truck.
He wasn't
with you.
in the truck.
Some guy took you away.
Some guy who was a truck driver took me away for an hour.
Oh my god!
Drove around in the truck, and then brought me back.
Dude, I can't imagine as a father. Like if someone took, hey, we're gonna take your daughter for a ride, and I got a daughter, and I'm like,
yeah, what are you gonna do?
Well,
I remember.
Well, I'm gonna go Rambo.
Well,
yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Well, New Jersey's gun laws didn't really allow you to do that back then.
Yeah, but some dude take my daughter away, and they're like, hey, if you don't give us money, we're gonna kill your kid. Like, I'm just gonna Rambo this whole.
I asked my dad about that because I remember, like, when I was like 12 or 13, I asked my dad, like, why don't you just fight him? Because like the Teamsters were stealing. They were stealing from the back of the truck. Like, I'm sure you've heard the term, it fell off the truck.
Yeah.
Fell off the truck.
You see that in the movie Goodfellas. There's like a whole bunch of cigarettes that come off the truck.
Yeah, it fell off the truck.
Yeah.
So I remember asking because my dad was getting in a lot of trouble with his boss because stuff was getting stolen. He couldn't do anything about it. And I said, why don't you fight him? He's like, you don't fight him. A truck catches on fire, and then all of the truckers call out sick one day. Like it never gets to the point where they kill you.
Yeah,
they put a bomb under your car. It never gets to that point. It hurts so much before that it's just easier to pan. I think that's one of the reasons why I freaking hate bullies, even to this day. Russia's a bully. Russia's a bully. They're pushing around Ukraine. I freaking hate bullies.
Yeah.
I grew up with the freaking Teamsters Union as one of the biggest damn bullies. I freaking hate bullies.
Do you feel like that's part of why you cover a lot of the Ukraine stuff? Or is it just because it's topical right now?
I don't know. I started it because I guess it was topical and I had something to add to the conversation. And there's not a lot of people who I guess are good at explaining why. Why. The one video that made me blow up was why Russian tank turrets pop off when they've been hit. It's because of the Carousel magazine, and when they're hit, they and cartwheel up in the air. And that YouTube actually demonetized that video after about 4 months. I guess
Why did they do that?
Combat footage. Like they came up with a new, you can't show combat footage anymore. Even if the people who were shooting you don't see the results of who they're shooting. There's kind of a new rule with that.
Pull that up, John, because I had my last episode. I was careful about what I said and did because pull up the YouTube showing blood on YouTube or something like that, and then it'll.
Yeah, you got old Dr. Pimple Popper was taken off of YouTube as well because she couldn't show some of her procedures.
Say showing blood or something like that.
And I get it. They have to make
YouTube
money.
policy on showing blood. Type that. I understand they need to make money, but so click on that violent or graphic content. So this is the thing. And scroll. Let me find it. So let's read this part. Violent or gory content intended. Here's the thing: intended to shock or disgust viewers, or content encouraging others to commit violent acts are not allowed on YouTube. So by that statement alone, by YouTube's policies, you weren't doing that. You were just explaining what happens to a tank. And so scroll down.
Yeah,
did we leave the article? Yeah. If you're violent or graphic content, keep going down. There's a thing about exceptions or something. Dramatized or fictional footage of content prohibited by these guidelines or the viewer is not given, blah, blah, blah. So we're not doing that. Okay, go up. Keep in mind that this policy also applies to videos, video descriptions, blah, 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 blah. There's an exceptions thing. Educational content, that's it. We may allow the kinds of violent or graphic content noted above in some cases in educational, documentary, scientific, or artistic content. This is not a pass to upload, blah, 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 blah. We don't make exceptions for this, like footage of whatever. For educational content containing the kinds of violent or graphic content noted above, the context must appear in the images or audio or the video itself. So, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but basically, if you're just demonstrating, like, this is why a certain thing happens to a mechanical vehicle or something, and you're not showing any blood, then...
Yeah, but I think one of the issues is that I showed a tank in Syria whose turret popped off, and there's people in that, and they
We don't-
die in the most horrible of ways.
Well, we don't know that though. Maybe that was a training video or a demonstration or something.
That's one of the reasons why. Like, I'm willing to play by YouTube's rules. I'll totally play by their rules. I just want to make sure the rules are the rules, because one of the weird things that I've noticed with YouTube is that, like, I shot a video of me shooting my SIG PT-6. It was demonetized.
Really?
And I guess it's because I loaded the magazine, and to YouTube, that's considered assembly of a weapon. Like, you can't show assembly of a weapon. That can't be monetized. I guess they have advertisers who just don't want you showing that. And if you want a YouTube that's full of makeup tutorials and silly dances, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I think YouTube could be one of the greatest training tools and one of the greatest educational platforms, and I don't intend to shock viewers. Like, I showed a video of there was a Russian there was a shelling of a supermarket, like out in the middle of nowhere in Donetsk. There were these people who, like, they schwacked like 8 freaking civilians, and someone had sent me this video, and they said, look, Ukrainians are shelling Donetsk. Well, I know the Azov guys probably aren't the coolest guys in the world. They were doing some wacky stuff back in 2014, 15, 16, 17, right? Like, maybe not the brightest thing to do what they did. But, if you're a dude and you're a sociopath and you're given a 120 millimeter gun, like, hey, let's party, right?
Pretty much.
So, in this case, I actually was able to analyze the crater. I know a little bit about crater analysis. And I was able to figure out not only the direction the shell came from, but where it was fired from, a soccer field. And I figured out that it was a 120 millimeter shell that was a short round. And I think these DPR guys, nobody in the DPR woke up that day going like, I want to kill a bunch of civilians. Oh yeah, I want to do that. Let's do that. Let's make it a short round, kill a bunch of civilians. No, nobody woke up doing that. But if you're tired or you're not well trained, and with the 120s, it has two charges. You have a full charge, a reduced charge. And if for whatever reason they loaded reduced charge that day, probably 6 rounds went out, and one of them was reduced charge, and it fell right next to the supermarket, killed 8 people. There's body parts and stuff like that. And I've picked up body parts before. I know we weren't going to talk about combat, but I picked up body parts before. Saw pieces of people the size of chicken McNuggets. It was rough making that video. And just, dismembered hands and stuff like that. I was able to get that past YouTube because I blotted everything out.
Yeah.
And I made the graphics. I put the graphics on my website. If someone really wanted to see the PowerPoint slides, they could see that. And I still got pushback from people who said, no, it was actually a Ukrainian shell. Like, dude, like, I know how to do crater analysis. Like, I know a little bit about this stuff. That actually kind of bothered me. But, like, I'm sure like the people, the artillery unit, the DPR, I'm sure they were like, oh crap, well, let's get a bunch of reporters in and say it was a Ukrainian round, then we can get ahead of this. Russia's actually really good at that.
Propaganda?
Well, they're amazing at it.
Yeah.
When
well, the thing is, we don't see a lot of the Russian propaganda in America, right? Unless you go looking for it.
Well, so a lot of it starts. So a great example I have is the missile attack in Poland.
Okay.
So, a couple of months ago, it was back in November, there were a bunch of Russian cruise missiles that were launched, and a missile landed in Poland. And I made a video about it. I actually proved that this thing was coming up. It was trying to take out a substation, like right on the border between Ukraine and Ukraine and Poland. And there were people who said, like, the American government, oh no, they analyzed the stuff. They said it's confirmed to be a Ukrainian S-300 missile that landed in Poland. It turned around and it landed in Poland. And I should do a follow-up video on this. So it takes a huge leap to think that Russian missiles going west toward Lviv, toward Lviv, wouldn't continue to go into Poland if one of them malfunctioned. That takes a huge cognitive leap. It also takes a huge cognitive leap to think that an S-300 missile launched from Ukraine going east to try to intercept one of these missiles could turn around, which we've seen Russian missiles turn around in boost phase, could turn around, not self-destruct when it loses track, and then not fire its proximity warhead, because the S-300 has a proximity warhead that explodes. I want to say it's like 900 balls that, or 900 cubes that explode out. There was a tractor in Poland that was not shredded, so this was a Russian cruise missile that landed in Poland. Mm-hmm. And the what's funny is that the American government and the Polish government said it was likely that it was a Ukrainian S-300 missile. Well, in the intelligence community, likely means between 55 and 80%.
Okay.
So it's kind of like one of those have your cake and eat it too moments. Now, one of the reasons I know this was fake was that almost immediately after it happened, pictures of debris ended up on 4chan. This is kind of how Russian propaganda works. I call it seeding, harvesting, and then dissemination. So they'll seed things like 4chan or Russian equivalents of 4chan, which is an image website. They'll seed the stuff with misinformation. One of the things they seeded was a part of the S-300 missile on 4chan. And then slowly it makes its way up from 4chan onto Telegram, and then from Telegram onto Twitter. And all you need is one Western news source to reference that, and now it's real, right? And it's actually brilliant the way it works, because they just push. It's like a fire hose. They just push so much propaganda out. You can't fight all of it. Chemical weapons are a big thing. Like, Ukraine is not using chemical weapons. The second they did that, the second Ukraine used chemical if Ukraine used chemical weapons, they would lose the support of the West.
Of course.
Immediately. Now, I could picture some sociopath Azov dude saying, I'm going to make a chemical weapon. He'd probably kill himself before he freaking made a successful chemical weapon, because I ain't touching that stuff. It's like landmines. Like, I ain't going anywhere near that stuff, right? But you could have some dude theoretically do that. He'd probably kill himself beforehand. But, one of the things I've said is that if Ukraine was using chemical weapons, Russia would have masks. They're not dumb.
Yeah.
They know how to fight in a chemical environment. It's part of their doctrine, fighting in a chemical environment. They know how to do this.
Yeah. So
if there was even an inkling, and I've talked with American chemical guys, Adam Kraft, he's a former chemical warfare officer in the United States Army. He did 20 years, retired. He was in the first Gulf War, or in Iraq as well. I talk with him about a lot of stuff. He works for a company called Velocity, an amazing company that does intelligence. And, I talked with him, and he's like, dude, if the Russians had any inkling, any chemical guy, if they had any inkling there would be a chemical threat, they would be banging the gong saying, guys, we need to get... I mean, you were in the Marine Corps. Yeah. You know what the chemical guys are like. They don't do anything. They don't do anything. So if there's a chance to do their job, they're like the guy in they're like the guy in the Lego movie. Spaceship. I'm gonna build a spaceship. Dude, any chemical guy, if they had any inkling that there'd be chemical warfare, they'd be in their mop suits like, guys, it's my chance to do my job.
Right.
I don't remember what the Marine Corps MOS is named, but in the Army it's 74 Delta.
Oh, I don't remember the number. I know CBRN now, right?
Yeah, CBRN. Yeah. Chemical, biological, nuclear, radiological.
I'm going to pull this thing out.
Your mask?
You're giving me a good opportunity. For those that have seen older episodes, I have this out. This is my mask from Iraq in 03. This is the old school one.
How did you take that home?
Dude, I don't know. You talk about in the Marine Corps, we got a saying: "Gear adrift is a gift." And here's what happened: I had taken one of my many trucks in to get serviced, and I had left my gas mask in the cab. And when I get my truck back, guess what's not there anymore?
Yeah,
I have no gas mask. Well, yeah, I left loose gear around, so I violated the rule.
Yeah,
gear adrift is a gift. I left gear adrift. It was a gift to somebody that needed a mask because they lost theirs because some other guy stole their mask, right? So I needed a mask. So this is not my original mask. This is the one that I acquired later because somewhere along the line, I don't even remember how I got this mask. So this is not my original mask, but original filter, original mask.
Oh, wow.
And this is circa 2003, man. But along with this, you got the... I think you guys, I don't want to mess up the whole thing back there, but I think you saw earlier I had the bag, the green bag that you wear in your hip, and then inside of the bag is the shot of...
epinephrine?
Yeah, adrenaline or epinephrine, whatever it is, and then 2-PAM chloride.
2-PAM chloride. Yeah.
That's it. It's a weird name, right? 2-PAM chloride. Yeah. It's always stuck with me.
Chemical name, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it actually is. Chloride.
Well, I think
obviously.
the 2-PAM chloride bonds to the. I did a video about it. The 2-PAM chloride bonds to the chemical agent, and the atropine speeds it through your system.
Here it is.
Proloxidine.
Pralidoxime. Pralidoxime. 2-pyridine aldoxamine methyl chloride. 2-PAM. Okay, so PAM is an acronym. What a name, huh? 2-PAM, usually as the chloride or iodide salts, belongs to a family of compounds, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to read all that, but yeah, so that bonds to the actual chemical, and then because your body is basically shut down, then the epinephrine or the adrenaline shot or whatever, that's what actually re-kicks your body into...
Yeah, it speeds that thing through your system.
You're still going to be screwed up.
I can imagine.
I mean, they don't tell you that in the training, but if you look at what this stuff does to your body, like, you'll live, but you're not, like, getting back in the fight anytime.
There's a lot of things they don't tell you in the training. Like, when I lost my arm, I freaking, I made a tourniquet. I did a story about this. You never give up the will to live.
Yeah.
I was in a cycling accident where my arm...
Oh, I never saw the scar. Okay.
Yeah,
so this thing's right below your elbow.
Yeah. The last moment, so I ran into I was on my bike and I ran into like a square concrete pillar at 18.2 miles per hour because that's what my Garmin said before it cut off. And it sliced my arm. Like, it was still hanging off by a couple of pieces. I did a whole video about it. I used to have a drill sergeant. This guy, Drill Sergeant Ricks, he's a dog like this. Like, back when I was, like, a private, I remember thinking, like, man, if I ever become a drill sergeant, I want to get, like, an operation to, like, change my voice box. You would talk like this. Okay, Poppets, it's time. We're going to play a little game. I like to call it Kill the Poppet. For a leading rest position. Hoop! This guy, big black guy, was like all tabbed out. Airborne Ranger, Pathfinder, Aerosol. Like, he had been in the Grenada and he had been in Panama. I think he missed the Gulf War because he was in drill sergeant school at the time. But like, this guy was like everything I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Like just like a walking god of infantry knowledge,
He was the be all you can be.
He
textbook
was
example.
And I remember,
Army
like,
guy.
you were talking about Buddhism earlier. One of my battle buddies, this guy named Schwab. I remember he was a Buddhist, and like when one time we had church services, and I stayed with my battle buddy. Because he was, he wasn't a Christian, he was a Buddhist. He was one of those California Buddhists, like, one of those dudes.
Yeah.
And
let's get some nachos and go surfing, bro.
Yeah, bro. And I remember, like, he was when I first met this guy, this drill sergeant. He had us stand at attention in front of our racks and pull our dog tags out. He went down the line going, Catholic, Presbyterian, Judaish, Episcopal. And he got to Schwab and he goes, Voodoo. I'm going to have to get a chicken cut its head off for you, Schwab. No, drill sergeant, I'm Buddhist, drill sergeant. Voodoo. What do Buddhists do? Like, Well, mostly we meditate, drill sergeant. Well, how do you do that damn meditate?
He's one of those classic drill sergeants that just says every word wrong.
I don't know. He like added or removed syllables from words randomly.
Yeah.
You know, like he was. And I remember like one time, like we were on, like all the Christians were at church. I didn't go to church, and I was with Schwab in the barracks, and he came up, and, call attention or Patties, He comes in, he goes up to Schwab, and he looks at me, he goes, McBeth, I know what you do. Schwab, what do you do to do what you do? I'm like, well, drill sergeant, I can meditate out in the woods. Why don't you go out and goddamn meditate? So, because your battle buddy, you have to go with your battle buddy, and so I think we went out into like this tree line near our barracks. I look back and the drill sergeant's following us. And Schwab sits down in the lotus position. I'm like kind of interested too because I'm like watching him. I've never seen someone meditate before, And so Schwab gets in the lotus position and starts meditating, and the drill sergeant gets really close to him. His round brown is like I don't know how the drill sergeant's dead. Their round brown is like a millimeter from their head, And like, Schwab, what are you thinking about? Well, the whole idea, drill sergeant, is to think about nothing. Think about nothing? How am I going to think about nothing? I think about nothing. I think about something. You're trying to get in my head, Schwab.
Well, what's funny is they're being a drill sergeant, but inside they're laughing. They're laughing so hard. It's a whole hilarious exercise for them.
Dude, when I was a trainer, I was a trainer, infantry trainer, and dude, you'd get back and you would just laugh.
Yeah,
you would just laugh. And when I trained grunts, it was during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I was never a yeller. I think in my entire 3-year career, I yelled twice, and once was a safety violation, and that's now you're going to get it. Now the knife hands are going to come out. And the other was like someone left their underwear like in the shower, like, oh,
that's pretty gross. Yeah.
Like, all right, well now I got to get into character, right?
Put on my hat.
Trainers didn't have drill sergeant hats, but
figuratively speaking,
yeah. So, but I remember like I was always like, these guys. I wanted to be a teacher, not a yeller.
Yeah.
Because some of these guys are going to go to Iraq or Afghanistan. Some of them are going to get killed. And I know once, like, I think I was deployed. And at the time, the Army had this thing called AKO, Army Knowledge Online.
Yep. They still have that, don't they?
I assume so. But, like, in the AKO system, it also had, like, an email system. And so you could theoretically look up anybody and send them an email.
Yeah. Marine Corps had that, too. Marine Online, I think, or something like that.
Well, one day I got an email from a soldier who was like, hey, man, I just got blasted, and I want you to know that I'm alive because of something you taught me. It's like, whoa. I did that. This dude's alive because of me.
What'd you teach him?
I don't remember. I don't even remember the guy's name. Like, dude, I don't know you. We have freaking all these new trainees and recycle. Like, I don't freaking know you.
He didn't. You don't remember what he said?
I have no. I don't remember what he said, and I don't remember the guy's name. Like, they're all the same. I hate to sound like that, but it's like they're all the same. Like, they all got the same problems. The names change. There's always a Johnson.
There's always a typecast.
Like,
there's always a guy wearing the BCG glasses.
Yeah, there's always a Johnson. There's always a Hall. Like.
There's always a guy with a hyphenated last name because he's
Lugo Martinez,
Puerto Rican. Yeah, exactly.
So, but like, I don't remember. I'm glad that I was able to, help you out. Like, I'm glad you're okay. Like, I don't freaking remember you.
I wonder that because in like 09, 10, 11-ish, something around there, 12, I was doing a lot of training of guys getting sent over to Afghanistan. So I was a combat marksmanship trainer. So we ran them through their whole weapons package before they got shipped out. So it's the Marine Corps has different tables of shooting. I think this has changed slightly.
Yeah.
And I have to look up. I don't know, but at my time, it was table 1 was your traditional, just fundamentals of marksmanship. I'm at the 200, the 300, and the 500, and I got all the time in the world to shoot these rounds down range. And I just make sure they're on paper. Just make sure I know how to shoot at that distance. Then table 2 introduces combat shooting, the helmet, the plate carrier, the mags, and all the stuff, right? And then table 3 is like night shooting and introduces different optics and pivots and shooting on the move and all that stuff. Table 4 is like offhanded shooting and supported positions, and it's more advanced, right? So we run them through the whole package. I don't know. I don't know if anyone benefited out of that or survived or anything. I never got any emails, so it's like you never know, did I actually do a good job or not? I don't know. I mean, I think I did the very best that I could, but it's very cool to know that you got at least one email from a dude that's like what you did to train them benefited that,
Yeah, I can tell you this. I shot the Marine Corps Course of Fire once. It took me 3 tries to pass. Like your marksmanship.
The table 1 stuff?
I guess. Because we didn't have to wear a helmet even. I thought it was really weird because in the Army you're wearing all your stuff. Yeah. And you're shooting out to 500 yards. You're shooting standing, sitting, kneeling, doggy. Like there's
doggy
position. I'm like nobody taught me how to shoot sitting. But I'm like, oh man, this would be great for high grass. I'm also like, I'm also, heavy weapons. So I'm outside my vehicle shooting. That means 4 vehicles are on fire, right?
Yeah.
But I remember like it was hard shooting out to 500 yards. Yeah. It was freaking hard. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, Marines freaking do this? And that, in the Army at 300 yards, 300 meters, you're still making coffee. Like, let me know when they get to 200, right? I will tell you, one of the differences, there's some things that the Marine Corps does better than the Army. There's some things the Army does better than the Marine Corps. I think marksmanship, Marine Corps, 100%. Like, because you get 20 weeks of basic training, or boot camp. You call it, right?
12. Well,
12 weeks 13, of boot camp? Yeah. 13 weeks of boot camp? All right, so Army boot
like
camp
an admin week, so yeah, it's like 12 weeks.
But I think you spend more time on your rifle.
Oh, 1,000%, dude.
So I think you get a better quality of marksman out of the Marine Corps. Whether that stays with you, I don't know.
Well, you even said it earlier. You said at week 5 you get your rifle. In the Marine Corps, they're handing your rifle up to you at week 2.
Yeah, that might have changed.
But you're not shooting it. You're just walking with it. You're learning how to treat it, how to disassemble. You're learning everything about the gun. And then later on in the training, then you actually do the firing. But by that time, you have so much familiarity with the weapon. I mean, you're doing drills, inspection, arms, 1, 2, 3, 4. I forget all the movements. If I had the rifle with me, I could mimic it. But you learn all the movements. You know how to inspect the weapon. Everything's drilled in your brain. So by the time you're on the range, you actually send the first round down range. You already know everything about that gun. And they've already invested a week of classroom training about marksmanship, the ballistics, the weather, all the weapon adjustments. So when you step on that range, it's like you're very highly. I wouldn't say highly. You're very well trained for a beginner.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
I mean, every Marine that I ever met was a pretty darn good marksman. And you see a lot of former Marines in the Army. I think they get out of the Marine Corps and they miss it. And they think about going back in the Marine Corps, and they're like, I'm not going back in as a Lance Corporal. so that's one of the things I think the Marines do wrong.
Oh, do they get a promotion going in the Army? You get
a rank? Promotions are a lot easier because we have the specialist rank, right? You have the E4, whereas in the Marine Corps, you're a corporal or you're not, right? The Army has a specialist, and the specialist is basically a full bird private. Right, and it's the shield of sham, right? Like now you're the guy who tells the private to go sweep while you go and smoke and do other stuff, right? But in the Marine Corps, you're a corporal now, right? Or you have to go to the corporal's course and take the corporal's course. I think for the longest time, the Marine Corps, I imagine it's still like this. If you're an 0311, or an 0351, that's the machine gunner, right? 0355 is your tow. I know the tows. 0355, I think 0353, 0355. if you're 0355 and you hit your, if you're up for promotion to E5 and you're at the bottom of the list and they hit the last guy, like you're just not getting promoted this year. Sorry.
Yeah.
And it's smaller service, right? So they're just not as many opportunities for promotion. Whereas in the Army, I don't think we can do things the way the Marine Corps does because we're just too big.
Mm-hmm.
We're too big to spend all that time in your rifle. If you're a 42 Alpha, if you're a paper pusher, it's like, all right, well, here's how the rifle works. Go shoot it. Okay, you got 28 out of 40. Fantastic. All right, go push paper.
Yeah.
You're never going to shoot your rifle. Jessica Lynch might disagree. And Jessica Lynch was she was the soldier who was captured, after her Patriot Maintainer unit got lost in Iraq and hit contact. And
I know the pararescue chief that was on that team that went and rescued her.
Yeah?
Yeah, I met him. It's pretty cool. He's a solemn, serious guy. Kind of like you would expect, you know. But yeah, just at that point, I forget the Air Force ranks, but he was at the E9 rank, and he was just at the top, and just had seen enough shit that he just didn't take it from anybody, didn't care. We'll edit out the language. I know you didn't want to have any language in the episode, but
it's fine.
Yeah, but
I try not to swear. When I do my videos, like I have 4 goals, at least for my long form videos. I never swear, and I do that mainly because I want a parent. I guess the videos are intended for 4 types of people. First type is the kids who might be interested in joining the military.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they can look at my videos and go, wow, that's what a rigger does. I want to be a rigger, that's awesome. I want to jump every day, you know? And the second type of person is a guy who's already in the military who can send this video to their mom and be like, Mom, this is what I do.
Oh, that's cool.
I think that is cool.
That's very cool, yeah.
And the third type of person is the dad or the mom who sits their kid down like, look what I used to do. I was artillery. I used to do that. Watch this video about artillery. This is what I used to do. And then, like, the fourth is the average American citizen who just wants to know what their military does. Where are tax dollars going? Well, your tax dollars are going to riggers who are so incredibly focused on their work that they only pack 15 parachutes a day. So that way they can maintain quality control on their parachutes.
Yeah.
I've had people write me and talk about how... our Army is going to hell because of woke and, this. I didn't see any of that stuff. And the Army invites me. I'm going to the sniper school in a couple of weeks. I was down at Fort Bragg to watch the riggers pack parachutes. Like, all I saw were a bunch of Americans who really wanted to do their job and do it well. And I am so proud of this generation of soldiers and airmen and Marines and sailors. Because they're serving when they don't even have to.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing their job, and they're doing it very, very well. I am so impressed with these guys. I really am. I think that our country is in darn good hands.
I think so, too. And I love that outlook that you have. Because I don't want to go too far back on it. I want to stay where we're at. But just looking at your background, and I mentioned this to you last night when we had dinner.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with the fact that you were one of those kids on government cheese. You were one of those kids that I am going to be a carpenter, and somehow you've risen like cream to the top. Like, and I admire that about you. I really do, man. And
I appreciate that.
It's really cool. Like you have risen out of where you were, and you've realized that I can be something better. I got to put in the work for sure, 1,000%. But I can be something better. And you have, man. I mean, you served the country for 20 years, and that's highly admirable. But beyond that, it's like you have this mentality to dig deep into subjects, to do the research. It's really cool. You care about the future, and you have this just hearing you talk about like the positive outlook about people that are serving the military today, and understanding that, oh, they don't do it like we used to. Like you could have that attitude. You very well could. There's that guy. That guy exists, right? But you have the attitude of like, I feel confident in knowing that the people that are serving our country today, you're retired, but the people that are serving today are doing a good job, and I feel in safe hands that when the time comes, they'll answer the call that they'll go over and they'll do whatever they have to do to protect the country and to protect the country's interests. That's cool, man. It's a positive outlook, and I admire that about you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I look at I actually got contact with a guy who wrote the Army's ACE strategy, which is Agile Combat Employment. And the whole idea behind ACE is that we have aircraft that will be at bases, and we're fighting an enemy that has ballistic missile capability. Who's that? Well, China, right? The whole idea behind ACE is that you have these distributed bases, and you can rebase fighters at different places. And what do you need? You need multi-capable airmen who can do different jobs and who can, who are willing to step over the body of a dying comrade to turn a jet, right? That's kind of what ACE is kind of going for here. You have guys who are going to be multi-capable airmen who will step over the body of a dying comrade to turn a jet, to get that jet turned around, to get that jet back in the fight. I have no doubt in my mind the Air Force is capable of doing that. With the airmen that I've talked to, developing some of my videos. Now, maybe that's a different. Maybe I'm using some logic here, because some of these airmen the airmen that talk to me aren't the crappy ones, right? The airmen that talk to me are the ones who I love the Air Force. I want to make a difference in the Air Force, So I'm only talking to the highly motivated guys, right? Because if you're a piece of crap, you're probably not going to reach out and talk to Ryan McBeth and do a video.
It's a good point, because you're probably playing video games and you don't really care about the future and all that.
I recently I interviewed a bunch of Marines because I want to do a video about the CAT teams, the Combined Anti-Armor Team. And, one thing that kind of struck me about the Marines who do heavy weapons is that, their touchstone is John Basilone. That's the guy, John freaking Basilone.
He's the GOAT, man.
Yeah.
In the Marine Corps, he is the GOAT. Yeah.
And they every single one of these Marines, they brought it back to John Basilone.
Yeah.
We're heavy weapons, we're John Basilone. We have a lot to live up to because of John Basilone.
For real.
That's an amazing thing that these Marines look back in their history toward just such an incredible guy. I guess you're looking up John Basilone. He was
there's his picture right there. This is the guy, man. I mean, they covered him really well on the Pacific, the HBO's thing, the short series. It was really good. Obviously, they sensationalized some of that for TV, and I get that, but it was really great.
He was a guy, and I that's actually one big difference between the Marine Corps. One amazing difference is that even Marines who join the Army, on the Marine Corps birthday, they I actually stood tower guard once for a private who had been a Marine. I think he was a specialist. He had been a Marine, and he wanted to go do the Marine Corps birthday. I'm like, I'll do tower guard for you. You go do the Marine Corps birthday.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And it's like a thing. It doesn't matter if you're, you're now in the Air Force or now in the Army. You all go do the Marine Corps birthday, and the youngest Marine, I think it was the youngest Marine, cuts the cake or something like that.
Yeah, the oldest and youngest do the cake thing. I forget who does what, but the cake is brought out by the youngest and the oldest, and it's a whole thing. And there's a bunch to that whole. I've been in the sword ceremony. There's a whole thing with the sword ceremony, man. It's brutal.
Oh, you have to fight the dragon?
Well, so we did it. It was in Las Vegas in I don't even remember what year, but because if you're in Pendleton, you try to go find a cool place to do the Marine Corps birthday. Because I've done it to where they had a big band.
Yeah.
So a big band, so the older Marines, they can come and hang out and stuff, and then later on in the night they'll have a DJ come on, and so then the younger Marines can dance and have a more club vibe and stuff. So there's some good Marine Corps balls done in Vegas for sure. Around November 10th, there's a lot of fun events to be had for Marines in Vegas. But
I've been waiting for a Marine to ask me out to the ball. But like I said, only 2%, 2.5% of my...
Look in November, man. I'll take you with some Marines. We'll have a good time.
Maybe
we'll get dressed up.
I could do that. I could...
That's the cool thing about the Marine Corps ball. Even if you've been out, I've been out since 2016, December 2016. Even if you show up, even now, 2023 in November or something, like, I'm welcome to the ball. I'm welcome to attend, hang out with the Marines, chop it up with all of them. It's a good time. And even other branches, I'll see guys in Army and Navy uniforms and Air Force and stuff. But everyone can attend. You can bring dates. It's just a good time.
Right.
But when you're standing, you're doing the cake ceremony and the whole. There's a whole formation thing. Guys with the swords.
Yeah.
I've been on that sword detail a few times. It is brutal, man, because you're standing there while the guest speaker is doing his speech.
Yeah.
And God help you if he is doing a long speech, because nobody wants to hear what he has to say.
Did you ever hear my Marine Corps joke?
No.
One Marine Corps joke. Here's my Marine Corps joke. So it's 1775, and this young naval officer walks into the Tun Tavern in Philadelphia, and he's looking to start the new Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And he finds this young man, and he goes up to the young man and says, "How'd you like to join the new Colonial Marine Corps?" And he goes, "Well, what's it pay?" And the Navy guy says, "Well, it pays $1 a month, and I'll buy you a drink of rum." And the guy says, "Well, I'm in." So the Navy guy says, "All right, well, he gives him $1, buys him a drink of rum, and he's so happy that he found the first Marine that he buys him a second drink of rum and says, 'Okay, go sit over in the corner over there.' So the guy goes sits in the corner over there, and the admiral or the Navy officer starts looking for another Marine. He finds this young strapping man and says, 'How'd you like to join the new Marine Corps?' And the guy goes, 'Well, what's it pay?' The admiral says, 'Well, I'll pay you $1 a month, and I'll give you a drink of rum.' The guy goes, 'I'm in.' So the guy, the admiral buys him a drink of rum, gives him $1, and tells him, "Okay, go sit over there by the first Marine." The second Marine goes over and sits by the first Marine. He says, "Oh, this new Marine Corps is amazing. They gave me $1 and he even gave me a drink of rum." And the first Marine goes, "In the old Corps, they gave us 2.
Nice.
My only Marine Corps joke.
Yeah. The old Corps.
Look, I tell you so I'm part of the Marine Corps Cyber Auxiliary, which is it's a unit of civilians that will help out the Marine Corps with cyber warfare stuff or do training, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And what kind of blows the Marine Corps is actually considering developing a coding MOS, like a software development MOS.
Okay.
I've never called the Marine Corps crayon eaters because honestly, they are not.
No.
They are a group of the Marine Corps are probably some of the most innovative. I was about to say soldiers. They're some of the most innovative fighters, warriors
Marines.
on the planet. Innovative Marines.
We're called
Marine Corps are
Marines.
some of the innovative Marines.
Yeah.
Well, they have to be because they're a smaller service. I mean, they invented close air support. They invented the Higgins boat. That was another thing the Marine Corps invented. They've invented the helicopter for doing ship to shore landings because after nuclear weapons were developed, they went, "Oh crap, I don't think we're going to be able to do massed amphibious assaults. Maybe we can do it from over the horizon with a helicopter." So the Marines are always innovating, and now they're innovating again with having coders push down to the Marine Corps so that way a Marine can be like, "Hey, I really need a piece of software that does blank." And these Marine Corps coders can code up a piece of software and get it out to them. It might not be a secure piece of software, but it's something that'll work in the situation they have for now. I think from what I understand, in Ukraine, there is a piece of software that's essentially an Uber app for artillery, where a Ukrainian might be like, "Hey, I need artillery," and they have a little handheld, and they're like, "I need artillery here," and then units can bid. Like, "Hey, I can take this mission," or "I can take this mission. I can take this mission."
Interesting.
And that's not something like people have asked me, like, well, if you found a T-72, would you call in artillery on it? I'm like, we don't get artillery. Like, that's a brigade level asset. Like, they're not trusting me with that. Yeah, Uber style technology. That's right, Uber style technology.
They're gonna make us subscribe. Can you scroll down through it?
But yeah, it is a thing that Ukraine is has running right now, where people can select hey, look, I have this fire mission, who can take it? And one thing that the Marine Corps is considering doing is increasing their squad from 13 to 15 with an assistant squad leader and a drone operator. Yeah. And you think about the capabilities that can add to the average unit. Like, now you have a drone operator that can see out fairly far, and that is definitely a force multiplier. The Marines are always on the forefront of figuring things out.
I saw you had mentioned that, and I had read that somewhere else as well. How recent was that development of the 15-man squad?
Probably in the past 6 months or so.
Dude, I got to tell you, somebody at the Marine Corps College, people in Quantico are paying attention to what's going on in Ukraine, because we're essentially the guinea pig for what the future of warfare is going to look like. Everything that I see coming out in new development in the U.S. forces is stuff that we were doing in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And it's not a brag or anything. It's just an observation. It's like, well, we had a drone guy in our team and stuff we were doing. So if we're going to be staging for an ambush and we want to see up ahead what's going on, pop some drones up and see what's going on. And we had significant vantage point to see what's going on for the work that we're doing. So we had a drone guy. Talking about the Javelin, highly successful piece of equipment. I mean,
it's a fantastic weapon.
We can reach out and touch them, and the tank can reach out and touch us, but we're just like three guys in a field. You know, are you going to catch that?
Probably not.
I don't know.
Especially if you're buttoned up.
If you have
to be looking in that area.
Yeah, I mean it's scary as hell for the guys that are on the ground, but I mean when the Javelin's got a 1,600 meter range to it, max effective range, right? It can go out to 2,000.
It's like 1,800. Yeah, but yeah.
Well, max effective 16. Yeah. Well, the problem is that the munition itself can get that far. It can go 2,000, but the problem is the guy looking into the thermal, into the optic. It's like it's hard to make stuff out. So the optic is the limitation there, not the munition itself. So when he's looking in there and observing the heat signature and shoots it, and then so we have footage of that. Of a very successful Javelin strike. And so that's modernizing what warfare is looking like, because it used to be like the TOW missile. You're in a Humvee, maybe you're in a saturated depression in the ground, and you've got a berm in front of you, so only the TOW is shooting out. And that's what the Javelin was originally intended for. Well, we got a guy that knows how to hump 1,000 pounds on his back, and he's carrying the rocket, and then you got a guy carrying the command unit, the clue, and so they're spreading up the load, and we're spreading up the ammo and all that stuff between the guys, and you run out there, and you combine, by your powers combined, Captain Planet comes together and shoots his Javelin, and so now the new, I think the modern, if anyone listening for like heavy arms and stuff, if you're listening and you're a Javelin person, like that is the new way to do it. It's like you go out, reach out and touch someone. You don't wait for the thing to come to you. It's like we're going out and we're closing with and destroying the enemy. We're not waiting for them to come to us.
Did you encounter any Coronet missiles from the Russians?
What is it called?
Coronet.
I don't know that I did.
That's kind of their equivalent of the TOW, but it's a laser guided missile.
No, we didn't encounter anything like that. I know that we encountered some mortars and definitely 120 Arty.
Yeah.
Big Arty too, but nothing close up. I showed in my last episode, there's a picture. I got hit by 120.
Yeah.
So my grape got smashed a little bit, but 120 is pretty common, especially like in an urban environment.
I have to use the bathroom again.
Yeah, let's hit pause, and then we've been going for a while anyway, but let's hit pause and we'll continue.
Yeah.
He's part of the tribe.
And I'm not like, what's crazy is that I have like zero politics. Like I like guns, and that's and I like veterans, like what are you going to do about veterans? Those are my politics.
Yeah.
Like I really don't have any politics.
Bring that, just down to the chin. Yeah.
I keep, I get people who want me to get into politics. Did you ever read Terminal Lance? That the cartoon series.
Mm-hmm.
I used to read it. I used to like Max, and then he started getting all political. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to listen to you anymore. I don't want to read your Twitter feed anymore.
Well, you got to think about it. It's the progression of an artist that started out with the basic hilarity of what a Lance Corporal does. you know, oh, yeah, Sergeant, I'll go sweep the thing. And then he doesn't, and he goes smokes or whatever. And he puts on roller skates because he's skating, right? Like, it's all basic military humor. And then after how many years does he look as an artist for something more, right?
Yeah.
And so the natural progression is to deepen the thought process, to deepen his politics, right? And so that's my thought of like why a guy like that would deepen the stuff, because him as an artist, he can't just stay in the basic slapstick military goofy Lance Corporal stuff, because at some point it just gets old for him.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I have people, they try to get me to get political, and one of the things that kind of blew my mind was when I first came to Washington D.C. I went out with this woman who worked for I think it was I-360. She worked for like this Republican organization that like would try to get people elected. This data organization. And I was talking to her, and I asked her, like, I think we're at, I can't remember. It was like this whiskey bar in D.C. It had a huge whiskey library. I can't remember the darn name of it right now. But I remember she was talking. I asked her, oh, what are you working on? She's like, oh, I'm working on Jim Murphy's campaign. I was like, Jim Murphy? He's a Democrat, right? And she's like, yeah. Like, but you're a Republican organization. She looks at me and she goes, what's the difference? And, like, as I talked to her, apparently, like, there's this company that had a coating for the license plates, like a reflective coating. And they wanted to get a law passed in New Jersey that would require that all the license plates be coated with their particular reflective coating. And, by getting this guy elected, Jim Murphy elected, he would maybe agree to signing off on the bill that allowed this company to sell their license plates in New Jersey.
Jeez.
And I was like, oh my God, left wing, right wing, same freaking bird. When you're dating in DC, it's fascinating because there's like a caste system. Like if you're part of an NGO, you're at the lowest part of the caste. And then like if you're a contractor like if you're a contractor for an agency or something, then you're in the second part of the caste. And then if you work for the government, you're in the third part of the caste. You work on the Hill, you're in a higher caste. And if you work, like in the White House, and
if you're actually a senator or whatever,
you're in the highest part of the caste. So, DC is an interesting place. You have women who are just brilliant women who are athletic and they're accomplished and they have multiple master's degrees and all this, But like, God forbid you're a smoker or a gun owner. Then you're like, well, sorry. Like, I'm 47 years old. I'm not exactly going to change who I am.
Oh, man, I tell you, you'd be a hit here in Texas.
Yeah?
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You'd be able to pull it down real easy because I've learned some things living in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not from Texas, but I've learned some things living here that the good side is that they love to just, hey, leave me alone, man. Just let me do my thing. That's kind of the politics.
Yeah.
Which aren't politics. Just whatever you're going to do with the laws, you go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
You like the power and you want to be on the hill or whatever your thing is, I don't even care. It's kind of that 700-year, AD guys living in Afghanistan. It's kind of the same mindset. I'm going to live in my land. I have homestead laws. This is my land. Just leave me alone. Let me shoot my guns if I want to shoot my guns. I'm not going to bother anyone. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I just want to provide for my family, make a good living. And I think that's most people in the world, really. Yeah. But then you have these hubs where you go to D.C. or L.A., and it's like there's this weird thing where people are all of a sudden wanting to like tell you how to live and tell you how to live, what you should and shouldn't do with your life. And it's like this weird vibe, right?
Yeah, years ago, there was a guy, I remember, I was getting on the metro, and I guess he was going to like this like March for Our Lives, protest, against gun violence. And I said to him, like, dude, you need to turn your T-shirt inside out because what you are right now is a target. Like anybody who wants to rob you is going to know you don't have a firearm on you. They know you're not going to fight back. And DC has a pretty big problem with violence. With people being robbed for their phones or any money they have. And he was like, "Well, I don't care about that." All right, dude. Like, play the game, take your chance.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder how people like that survive in the world. Like when I travel, I'm gray man. Like even what I'm wearing right now, black. I traveled like this, black. I have gray pants, tan pants, black shirt, black hat. Like you wouldn't be able to recognize me out of a lineup.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, though. It's like to the trained eye, though. Like John was talking about earlier, he did a lot of summer camp stuff growing up. Like he worked as the counselor and all that. And so it's like when he meets people, he can tell in a way that they've done summer camps.
Okay.
It's kind of an interesting thing. It's like we can tell somebody that kind of was something, right? Prior military, a cop or something. Like we can kind of pick that out of a group of people on an airplane. Kind of just there's a look, there's something going on. So it's like even the gray man is a type.
I guess.
Right? It's like to the trained eye, it's like, oh, that person's on vacation. This guy's just plain. There's something, he's not anything.
Yeah.
What's up with him? And he kind of knows who's doing what. He's looking around. He's aware of everything. That's a thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like to the trained eye, even the gray man is known.
Huh. I guess I never really thought of it like that. That's one way of putting it.
Yeah. It's not saying that being the gray man is a bad thing.
Yeah.
But what are you trying to blend in? So maybe the ultimate blending in is to be the tourist and dress like a goofy guy with tropical shirts or something.
Maybe.
Because then they don't know.
I don't know. Like one of my things is like I never wear, like I'm a big DC sports fan, which is sad. I'm a big fan of the Washington Wizards.
Yeah.
I used to be a Sixers fan when I lived in Philly. Now I'm a Wizards fan. I used to be a Phillies fan. Now I'm I'll tell you this. I every time I get sad, I don't know how much you know about baseball, but every time I get sad, I think about Bryce Harper. I think about how, you know what? At least I didn't have to watch the World Series sitting on my couch like Bryce Harper did. Now, Bryce Harper he played for the Washington Nationals, and then he wanted more money, and like the Phillies got him for like a 30-year contract. That's a 13-year contract, something like that.
Yeah.
I hope he likes Philadelphia because he's gonna be there for the next 13 freaking years. And so far, like they almost they made it to the World Series. They lost to the Astros again, right? I look at Bryce Harper, and the one thing that bothers me about Bryce Harper. Oh, Bryce freaking Harper. This guy he went to a Capitals game. Washington Capitals is our hockey team. He went to the Washington Capitals game wearing a Las Vegas Knights jersey.
Uh-oh.
He's from Las Vegas originally. I get it. I know why he did this. Read the room, dude.
Yeah, read the room, yeah.
I remember, Governor Christie, New Jersey's Governor Christie, he went to a Dallas Cowboys game and tried to high-five the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. And I think that's why he lost the election in 2016.
New Jersey takes their sports seriously.
Their sports seriously. All the Phillies fans said, "Oh no, not the Cowboys. Yeah. Oh no, anything but the Cowboys.
Don't high-five that guy.
Don't high-five that guy." And so, like, he lost the Giants fans, the Jets fan, all three Jets fans, and the Eagles fans all in one high five, and that's why Chris Christie isn't president or wasn't president and Trump was. I think that's why. But
I'm sure there's a few other reasons too. But what's interesting about Jerry Jones with the Cowboys is I remember I was living in Arlington at the time when they were trying to build the new Cowboy Stadium. The old one was falling apart, and it was old and everything, so we're going to build a nice new one in Arlington. Well, they pass these laws. They do this little backroom deals, these little slimy handshakes and stuff where they make stuff happen. I got in a car accident. I had to get a rental car, so my insurance is covering it.
Yeah.
But they said they wanted me to pay some kind of fee, and I was renting the car for a month while they're fixing my car, renting the car for a month. I had to pay like $30 to a stadium fee. And I was like, what is well, my insurance is covering everything. No, it's not. It doesn't cover this. And I'm like, well, why do I have to pay this? It's because we're in Arlington. You're renting a car in Arlington, and Arlington is building the new stadium.
Oh,
so
my God.
all car rentals, any concession fees at the airport, car rentals, anything like any cities have concession fees for certain things like that. I had to pay a $30 fee to build the stadium. And this is a law that they passed in Arlington that all these fees, anything that's like a car rental, anything you're doing. There's an additional fee that has to go to build the stadium. So the city of Arlington or anyone doing business in Arlington is the ones that are building the stadium, not the team, not the city, not anyone else. Who's paying it? The everyday guy is the one that's building that stadium.
Oh, my God.
And I still don't have my invitation to the stadium to go watch a game or anything. Yeah. Parking is $75, and it's insane, man.
Every once in a while, I'm not a huge Ravens fan, but I'll watch the Ravens. I mean, when you look at, I'm a fair enough Ravens fan. The Eagles. When I lived in Philadelphia, my dad was a huge Eagles fan. And I think once my dad, he actually missed my 30th birthday because there was an Eagles game. And what's funny is I've talked with Eagles fans, and they've gone, so. You'll have plenty of birthdays. The Eagles are playing. Why would we go to your birthday? I dated a woman who was a Ravens fan, and she had tickets. Maryland still runs, their Maryland Air Guard runs the A-10, and they'll do A-10 flybys.
That's cool.
It is really cool, seeing that plane. And I've done videos about the A-10, and how maybe we don't need this plane anymore. But it's still a cool looking plane. You can't deny that,
Well, when they build a flight system around a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, that gun is iconic, right? I mean, you hear that gun in the distance. It's like people are terrified of that gun, but it's kind of a lore thing, right? It was just anybody in Iraq, Afghanistan, they were terrified of any American assets, but.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you can't shoot them down. Right?
Yeah.
When you don't have the man-pads to take these things out. And one argument, I had made a video about the A-10 where I had said, does the A-10 accelerate change? That's the real question. Does the A-10 work with the ACE doctrine where, we're going to be fighting from remote airfields where we might have to step over the body of your dying crewman to turn a jet? Does the A-10 fulfill that mission? If the answer is no, then maybe we need to look toward other assets that do fill that mission.
Yeah.
And I had done a video saying maybe the A-10 was obsolete the day it came off the production line because we have this fantasy that all of the airfields in Europe that the A-10 was flying out of wouldn't be lakes of nuclear fire, on the first day of the war.
Yeah.
Right? If there ever was a war in Western Europe, I don't know if any planes would have gotten off the ground. Because it probably would have been nuclear from day one. That's how the Russians were trained to fight. And the BMP was designed around nuclear and chemical combat. That's why they had the little portholes in the side, so the troops could fight from inside. One of the reasons that the T-62, T-64, T-72, T-80, T-90 have autoloaders was that the loader would get shine. When they loaded around, when they opened the breech, they were going to get exposed to radioactive rays, when in a nuclear environment. So if we just take out the loader, that's one less person that's going to get exposed to radiation, when they're fighting inside their tank. And, the autoloader makes the tank smaller. Actually, I'm one of the few people who thinks the T-72 isn't a bad tank. It was probably pretty good for 1972. Yeah. Smaller than the Abrams, but nowadays a missile doesn't care how big you are or how small you are. Just you put that thing in the center of the track gates and good night, Irene. Yeah. Yeah,
tank warfare is interesting. I'd like to have a 21st, 22nd century kind of tank tactician come on and
you got to get the chieftain to come on. Nicholas Moran.
Yeah?
He might be in Texas. Nicholas Moran. He runs the chieftain.
Moran.
Nicholas Moran.
We'll make a note of that. We'll look into him because I would like to hear about that because the Marine Corps got rid of tanks.
And I think that was one of the smartest things the Marine Corps could do. If they need the tanks, they can call the Army. We got plenty of them.
Sure. But what is the future of warfare? Why am I going to put a big piece of heavy, expensive equipment out there when I can just shoot a rocket from 2 clicks out what's the point of the tank then? You know?
That's a big question. I actually view, and Nicholas Moran and I've talked with him before, and we disagree on this, but he's a tank guy, right? What's he going to say?
Mm-hmm.
And he was also an officer, so he probably knows a little bit more than me, But he basically said that I have said that the tank is not obsolete, but I think it's getting there. I think I see in the future tanks, or I see tanks morphing into IFVs. I see tanks morphing into infantry fighting vehicles that use their main chain guns to suppress the enemy while the infantry do the fighting. Because in the future, what I see are active protection systems that are so good that they might even be able to hit main gun rounds. So right now, active protection systems like the Trophy, or I believe Russia has the Arena system. At least theoretically, they have the Arena system, at least on the T-14 Armada, which we're probably never going to see deployed.
Yeah.
I think they've only built like 18 of them. 14 T-14 Armadas. Not a lot. India was supposed to buy the thing, or India or Egypt. They were thinking about buying it, and they backed out. I mean, weapons today are so darn expensive. If you don't have another country agree to purchasing this weapon system, you're not going to manufacture this thing. Why do you think the F-35 has, 11, 13 different, 14 different countries supporting the F-35? We need all that many countries to bring down the individual cost of each weapon system.
Yeah, I've got I don't want to give away too much, but I know a guy that builds the F-35.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually in the factory on the assembly line. And he talks about something similar to that. Just talks about the demand and the cost, and that filters down into how they're building and what they're building, what parts they're using, and things like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting to know this thing that's supposed to be super advanced and the next phase and everything. But it's well, that's awesome that you have this thing, but if we can't build enough of them to replace some aging aircraft, then what are we doing with it? It's just a really cool item. It's BMW made this awesome car back in the 60s, and it was all steel and had amazing switches on the dash. And Jerry Seinfeld did a thing, Comedians of Cars Getting Coffee. It was one of his first episodes. Gorgeous BMW. It was too expensive to build.
Yeah.
So, then they couldn't mass produce the thing. So it was becoming more of a cute item or something.
Yeah.
Is that our time?
Yeah, that might be the Uber coming.
Yeah.
I think that's my notification. Almost there. Thanks for your patience.
Okay. Well, for those listening, Ryan's got a flight to catch to get back home. He's got business to attend to.
I still have a job.
Yeah.
People, I don't make any money off my YouTube. I make a little bit of money off my YouTube channel, but it all gets plowed back into stuff like lights and travel and stuff like that. I'm not exactly some wealthy YouTuber with 8 million followers that does dances and
Well, it's so funny. You were talking about the coin earlier. It's you can make this intensely detailed, well-researched video about cryptocurrency, and you get a few thousand views, and then you just make something about butt pads, butt pillows that Russians are sitting on, and millions of people will watch. You're like, what is with the world? What is happening here?
Yeah, and what's the butt pillow? It makes a lot of sense for the Russian army, because you're riding on top of your BMPs or your BTRs. It's cold. You sit down on the ground. It's wet. It's cold. This is a vital piece of equipment for a Russian soldier. And Ukrainians wear them too. Did you wear a butt pillow?
I did not.
You did not wear.
I rode on top of BTRs.
Yeah. Is it cold? I would imagine it's pretty darn cold.
I don't remember.
No.
Honestly. I mean, if you're on top of a BTR and you're rolling into an op, you're kind of you're amped up, you're focused, you're not really thinking about, if your butt's cold or not, because you're only on that thing for a little while, right? They're just rolling you into where you're getting inserted, and then you're on foot from there. So it wasn't a long time, and something I didn't really think about. But if it's an elongated thing, you're rolling from one end of Ukraine to the front lines, and you're on top of that BTR the whole time, I can get why the pillow would be
necessary,
a useful thing. Well, for my channel, the I mean, this is small time stuff, you know. I don't have hundreds of thousands of subscribers or anything, and I'm not necessarily in here to make money for this. It's really, I think I started out, and I mentioned this last night at dinner. I was like, my intention is really to just kind of raise awareness, ultimately, of like the Ukraine Independence Fund. I want people to know that like there are Americans fighting and dying in Ukraine, and we want to have other cool episodes too, just for fun, because it is a fun hobby thing to do. Yeah, this is a good time. Have some drinks and cigars, but
originally you invited me to the camp and shoot.
Yeah.
Which, like, the shoot part I can do. The camp part, I don't know. To me, camping is going to a Motel 6. That's camping.
Yeah.
But what was it? There's a camp and shoot you're doing this Saturday, right?
Yeah, so this Saturday, or actually Friday night. So if you go to John, you can pull this up. If you pull up our I Fund Ukraine, Go to the camp and shoot link at the top right.
So this is a thing where guys are going to do a tactical course for 2 days.
Yeah, so me and another guy, we were in Ukraine together. We're going to be doing Friday night. We're camping on a ranch in Waxahachie, Texas, and we're just going to sit by the fire, just enjoy the stars, enjoy some time together, and then we're going to go do some tactical shooting the next day at a range, and we're doing rifle, pistol. We're running through all the different drills, and there's a little surprise in there where we're going to do a little bit of analysis of some combat footage, and maybe a little simulation of some of that, just to understand, like, this is what a real-world situation is. Like, here's the footage, here's the things I learned, here are the mistakes we observed, and we'll run through some of these drills so you can actually, like, this is what a real tactical situation looks like, and so it'll be a fun time. All the proceeds of the camp and shoot go to the Ukraine Independence Fund. We're 501c3, tax exempt, and there's a picture. John's got it up. We're looking to raise money for medical supplies. Had a friend over there that I was fighting with last year. He said, like, if anyone's under the impression like we're good on medical gear, like, we are so far from being good on medical gear. Like, we need all this stuff. So there's a list that we've got to provide. There's a medical supplies list that we've got on the website, and anyone that can donate supplies or donate money for that. But attend the camp and shoot, because that's a fun way you can have a good time and donate money. Or if you can't attend, you can just donate supplies and money for medical supplies. We're trying to get protective equipment. I know you did a video with this guy. What was his name?
Johnny Rogers. He drives around Ukraine in a van giving out medical supplies.
So those are the Johnny Rogers of the world. We're trying to help them out with, like, they need protective equipment too, man. They're delivering humanitarian aid. They need body armor. They need helmets. They need things because they're taking the supplies from a safe environment, bringing it into a hostile environment, and they are coming under fire. And they need help too, so we're raising money for that, and logistical support too. We did, I don't think we have it on the website yet, but we did recently for a fallen brother that was killed over there. We did help with their funeral costs. Yeah. So the family, and this is a big gap, major gap, is that you have Americans fighting and dying in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ukraine has some mechanisms in place to help with doing a funeral in Ukraine.
Yeah.
They have some mechanisms to help the families and things later on, but there's a massive red tape thing there, right? So in the meantime, their loved one needs to be buried in the U.S. They have to have a funeral there, a memorial service. They have to put the body in the ground, the casket. Who's paying for that? Nobody's paying for that. And that's the gap that we've identified, is that we've been with these guys. We understand the need that nobody's covering this, and we want to do but right by those families, to understand that your loved one has sacrificed their life for the cause of freedom for people halfway around the world, and that's what we're all about, man.
It's ifundukraine.org.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, as soon as we get off the air, I'm going to donate $1,000 to your group.
Thanks, man.
So, absolutely.
I didn't expect that. Thank you.
I had a great time here. I thank you so much for bringing me here, and thank you so much for introducing me to the Hard Eight. That was some good barbecue. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Hard Eight's good, man. You know what? And that's kind of the tourist one. I wanted. There's some low key Texas ones that I wanted, where they have the burnt ends.
Yeah.
Hard Eight doesn't do the burnt ends, so we gotta.
Well, it was really good.
If we can get
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Ryan. Where can people find you? Because I know we can check you out on YouTube.
You just Google me, Ryan McBeth or Ryan McBeth Programming on YouTube. Because I'm still technically a programming channel. I don't know if I'll ever get back to that. I try to do one programming or cybersecurity video every month. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. I'm actually doing a video. I'm constructing it right now on like creating one-time pads using the stock market as a randomizer.
Oh,
So one-time pads is a way to encrypt and decrypt data. Well, really encrypt data, and then if someone else has that same pad, they can decrypt that data. But you'll see the video about that.
yeah. I mean, we burned through so much time. I wanted to talk about tech with you and cybersecurity. Hopefully, we can do
come
it.
back.
Yeah, come back,
I
man.
can come back.
Come back, dude. It'd be great. So YouTube, Ryan McBeth programming. Where else? Anything else you do?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm in my website, my Substack. But if you Google Ryan McBeth, it's either me or the Frisbee player.
Okay.
There's a guy who like does Frisbee golf for a living, and his name is Ryan McBeth as well. I'm not that guy.
Yeah. What's the Substack?
RyanMcBeth.substack.com, and that's where you can see all the uncensored footage that I can't show you on YouTube.
Yeah, and I like that because you're giving the unfiltered version of everything. That's nice.
And if you're military, like if there's stuff in your military, like I'll make sure like you get a copy of the video physically so you can play it on a laptop as a demonstration.
That's cool, man.
Well, I want to help out soldiers, and Marines.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you so much.
It's been awesome having you on, and I love that even though it's like different branches of service, it's like I think later on as you get into further in your career or you've retired, there's that appreciation for each other and just for the cause and for the country and just seeing good people being provided safety all around the world.
Last I checked, we all chew the same dirt. I don't think an IED ever cares whether it's a Marine or a soldier.
Yeah. It's good stuff, brother. All right.
Thank you for having me on.
Hey, thanks, man. All right. Bye, everyone. See you.